Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the MHA What If with another fanfiction. This is the move of, what if Deku was chosen by the symbol of evil? All credits for this video go to their respective authors, so please support the real author. Check out the link in the description for more details. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. It was a day Izuku remembers like no other. He and his sister were only 4 years old and had just gotten out of preschool, making their way into the car with their mother Inko. They were heading to the quirk doctor to see what their quirks were. Izumi had already shown signs of her quirk awakening. Objects on top of the counters too far for her little body to reach falling off without any force, her stuffed bear floating without reason. Izuku had no showings of a quirk yet, but he was excited to finally know. Maybe a quirk like his mother or a fire quirk like his father. Even though his father had passed away when the twins were only 3. It hit the family hard, but then Toshinori came into the picture. He was funny, strong, and filled with life that the family desperately needed in their time of need. Then, 6 months after the passing of Hisashi, Inko remarried with Toshinori, filling in the hole the family had. Izuku heard tales of Toshinori's mentor, Nana Shimura. Hearing her blow bad guys away, helping anyone in need, all while doing it with a smile. She was basically Toshinori's mother figure. The twins even call her grandma. Izuku was inspired, truly inspired. In the same vein All Might inspired him. He hoped that he could have a quirk that would help him be a hero, just like All Might. His mother was also a hero, the number 30 hero, Lady Magneta. He and his sister wanted nothing more to be heroes like their mother. He just needed to know what his quirk is. He should give up on that dream now. Izuku's world shattered the moment the test results came back. Izumi was blessed with a stronger telekinesis quirk, one great for heroics. While Izuku was quirkless. Quirkless. He couldn't believe what he heard. This was a bad joke, it had to be. How could this have happened? Why did this happen? When the family came home that evening, things were not the same. Toshinori congratulated Izumi for having such a wonderful quirk, and Izuku didn't get anything, only a pitiful look on Toshinori's face. It hurt badly. He felt like a disappointment to his family, Hisashi, Nana, even himself. He couldn't give up on his dream, he couldn't. He would find a way, he can be a hero, quirkless or not. He just needed to believe. 10 years later. Now, we're about halfway through the school year, it's about time for you kids to start thinking about your futures. The teacher said with a stack of papers neatly in front of him. His students were barely paying attention, except for one who was writing notes about the recent villain attack down the street he encountered. I could pass out a bunch of these boring career questionnaires. But what for? He then threw the papers into the air as the students began to use their quirks carelessly. All of them but 3. I know you all want to become heroes. Hey Teach, the smug ash-blonde boy said as he rose to his feet. Don't lump me and Izumi with all these extras. Most of their quirks are only good enough for D-list heroes. The green-hair girl next to him leaned into her seat, smirking just as cocky as the boy. Yet Teach wouldn't want to get their hopes up for the big leagues. She said cockily. Katsuki Bakugo and Izumi Yagi, the gifted students in all of Aldera. The class turned in outrage of their arrogance, but the pair dared them to prove themselves. Why are they always like this? Izuku thought as he buried himself into his notebook more, can't we have one day without the screaming in class? While the teacher pointed out their impressive results saying that they may have a genuine shot at making it into UA, the most prestigious school in the country if not the world, Izuku was still drawing out the fight he encountered on the way to school, going over all the techniques, how they used their quirks, etc. The room filled with gasps and murmurs, but the pair proudly proclaimed they would get into UA without a problem and be the next top heroes in the country, rich and famous all around the world. Oh, Izuku, you want to go to UA too, right? And like that everything stopped. A dreadful silence breached the room as all students looked at the green-haired boy. He had to hold a glare back. It was definitely illegal for his teacher to share such confidential information with everyone, but he knew the teacher didn't care. After all, he was only quirkless. The whole classroom burst into laughter. You got to be kidding, right? How's a quirkless kid gonna get into any hero school? Izuku panicked in his seat. Actually, they got rid of that rule. I could be the first one dash. An explosion happened on Izuku's desk, as Bakugo growled and slammed down one of his hands. This again, will you ever learn? Izumi said with disdain in her voice. She looked disgusted with the even mention of what Izuku said. Listen up, Deku. Bakugo began with an insidious grin upon his face. Just because your stepfather is going to teach there doesn't change the fact that you are a hopeless failure. You're even worse than the rest of these damn extras. You think Yue would even think about taking you in instead of us? Izuku tried to back away, but could feel a force pulling him back to Bakugo, Izumi mostly likely using her quirk. No, that's not it at all. I'm not competing with either of you, but... He looked down, staring at his feet. I've wanted to be a hero like my mom and grandma since I was little. I can at least try, right? Smoke started to rise from Bakugo's palms as his sister finally got up from her desk. What the fuck kind of delusion are you living in? Fine, go ahead and try. You'll be remembered by no one when you die alone, that's the best you could hope for. Everyone continued to laugh as Izuku felt tear welling up in his eyes. Izumi sat back down and looked away at the shamefulness her brother brought upon her family. Hours later, Izuku was packing up his things. As he was leaving, Bakugo, Izumi, and a couple of their lackeys showed up in front of him. Izumi reached out with her telekinesis and grabbed the notebook Izuku was writing in. Well, what do we have here? She asked in a mocking tone. What is this, your 14th hero notebook? Bakugo asked. Izuku tried reaching for it but was just out of reach as Izumi lifted it higher. Please give it back, I need it. Izuku pleaded with the duo as Bakugo smirked. You'll need to go higher, Deku. He said, knowing full well the futility of Izuku's actions. Izuku looked at the two with horror-filled eyes. Please, not again. Bakugo then grabbed the book, igniting his hand and burning the book right in front of Izuku. Why do I even try? Izuku thought as Bakugo tosses the charred book out the window. He hardly felt anything at this point, this was just a regular occurrence. They then took turns beating the poor boy until he was crying on the floor. Bakugo then placed a hand upon Izuku's shoulder, which sparked and seared his uniform. Don't apply for Yue, this is your only warning. He said with malice in his voice. As the duo and their lackeys were about to leave, Bakugo gave him some parting words. You know, if you really want to be a hero that badly, there is on way. Izuku's ears perked up ever so slightly. Take a swan dive off the roof, and pray you'll get a heroic quirk in your next life. As the bullies left, laughing their asses off, Izuku rose from the floor but kept his head down. As tears continuously leaked from his eyes, he couldn't take much more. Anger and hate built up in his chest but he kept it down. Leaving the building, grabbed his notebook out of the koi fish pond and left the school ground, alone. Somewhere else. In an undisclosed location, a man was sitting on his throne. Connected to all sorts of medical equipment. Tubes were inserted into his face just to allow for the flow of oxygen to hit his lungs. His head and face were covered by the dark of the room, only the soft green glow of the computers shined ever so slightly on his scarred face. After his fight with All Might, the bastard symbol of peace, he had been severely damaged beyond what his quirk were capable of healing. Once his friend the doctor found a sufficient healing quirk, the damage was already done. No eyes, no nose, but a thirst for vengeance remained. He's currently looking through the Mizudafu city's camera system, eyeing for potential candidates to be his successor. After his failed attempt at taking Tenko Shimura as All Might and the friend of Shimura found him first, he had been desperate to find someone who could succeed as his body couldn't keep him as the symbol of evil any longer. But so far no luck until... He was watching the camera footage of a boy with green hair, walking alone. He had been watching the Yagi family for quite some time, hoping to make All Might watch as he kills all of them one by one in front of his face. But now, something intrigued him. He had seen the altercation in the school, as their cybersecurity was non-existent. He watched as the son of All Might was beaten and berated by everyone around him. He was interested in the boy, he was clearly smart with how he writes. The boy sometimes speaks out loud and he could tell the boy was intelligent about quirks, and their users. Well, aren't you intriguing? Izuku Yagi. Izuku was sort of glad he didn't write anything too useful in the new notebook yet. The forest green cover was now charred with gray too, coating it. Most of the pages were burnt, colored a caramel brown with ashes on the corners that fell off. He was taking a different route than he usually did to avoid the people who hated him the most, and the people he hated the most. But he couldn't bring those bad memories to light. He wanted to be a hero he couldn't hate. That's not what heroes do. Why would Kaken say that? What would they do if I actually did? That horrible thought escaped and he quickly thought of something else. Though it didn't matter how he got home, he was barely welcomed there. They practically treat him like he didn't exist. While Izumi was the golden child of the Yagi family, the one to soar to new heights, he was the outcast, the runt. On rough days like today, or most days actually, he would have to patch himself up from all the abuse he suffered. If his parents saw, Izumi would just say he got into a fight for attention. They always listened to Izumi. And then he got something worse than neglect, unjust punishment. It didn't matter what he said. As Izuku was lost in his thoughts, he walked through an underground tunnel. He then heard something rumbling underneath his feet. He turned to see what looked like a living pile of sludge burst from the sewers. Well, looks like I scored myself a meat suit. The sludge villain exclaimed as he lunged at the petrified boy. Izuku tried to flee, but was caught by one of the tendrils flung out at him. He tried to scream, but the villain was working the sludge into his mouth to control him like a puppet. Nothing personal, but I just need a disguise to help me skip town. Thanks for being so charitable. You're my hero. Izuku dropped his notebook as his body got weaker. So this is it? Is this how I leave this world? I'm so sorry, Dad, Grandma. I failed. He faded out of consciousness, ready to face death. As the sludge villain continuously forced himself into Izuku's body, something made him stop. He was feeling something tingle inside of the boy's body. What the hell? As the ground started to rumble and out of the same manhole the villain came out of, someone else shot out. Fear not, for I am here. All Might, the massive muscular man announced, ready to deal with the villain in front of him. All Might. The sludge villain exclaimed and tried to run but was caught in the ensuing attack. Texas smash. As a violent gust of wind splattered the sludge villain all over the walls and ceiling, freeing the unconscious boy from within. All Might looked at the mess. Well, this should be an easy cleanup. Haha. He then looked at the civilian he saved, but looking more closely he could see the familiar green tuft of hair. Izuku. As he rushed over to his son, checking to see if the boy was still alive. Izuku. Izuku. Answer me. He then saw the boy cough up some sludge and started to breathe. All Might sighed in relief knowing the boy was all right. Izuku stirred awake as he felt a large hand continuous slap him of the cheek, very lightly. Why? Wake up. Wake up. Izuku's eyes fully snapped open to see the infamous smile of his idol in front of him. Welcome back to the land of the living, my boy. Izuku was starstruck. Here, in front of him was All Might, his idol. He then immediately shuffled backwards to maintain a confident distance. All Might. He stuttered, too amazed to believe his eyes. Ha! The one and only. Apologies, young Izuku, but I've been chasing that dastardly villain all day long. I'm terribly sorry for allowing him to cause you harm. All Might said. His boisterous laugh gave ease to Izuku in what had happened to him before, even him forgetting that the man knew his name. All Might then held out his hand towards Izuku. Izuku then snapped out of his shock to shake his head. It's no problem, All Might, I thank you for saving me. All Might's smile grew a little bigger. No sweat, kid. You did your best to hold out, and you get to live another day. Now then, if you would excuse me, I have to take this villain back to the police. As All Might got ready to lunge, ready to take off, All Might, please. Izuku called out to him. I have to ask, is it possible for me to become a hero without a quirk? Izuku Yagi knew the exact feeling he was feeling. It happened every day. Heartbreak. Except it's now up to an impossible degree he didn't even know existed. He asked his idol, the #1 hero, if it was possible, if he was able to be a hero without a quirk. And he said no. He told Izuku that some villains can't be beat without power. That without a quirk, he'll end up dead. He told him to not give his family something to worry about, like he knew anything. Tear fell from Izuku's face as rage and anguish boiled beneath the surface. He trudged his way home, hoping that he could scream his heart out in safety within his room. Finally he made it to the large family house. He opened the door, greeted to two pictures on the desk close to the door. "Hi Dad, hi Grandma, I hope you are doing well." "I'm not. Today was rougher than the usual. I don't think I can take much more. Please keep watching over me," Izuku said, solemnly looking at the two pictures of his deceased relatives, the only ones who would actually listen. A final tear shed as he made his way through the house. Ink was in the kitchen, currently making something for dinner. She had a day off. "Hey Mum." She was cutting vegetables, not even noticing the boy talking to her. "I had a horrible day, I almost died dash." Inko stopped cutting to look at Izuku. "What? Don't just come up to me and joke like that. You know how I feel about the topic of death in this family. Go to your room." She yelled at her son, not even beginning to see him as such. I apologize, Mom, I'm sorry." Izuku stammered, clearly intimidated by his mother's yelling. He left going up the stair to his room. "I don't know what I was thinking." He thought, she never paid any attention unless it was about something she didn't like. He wished he didn't talk to her, wishing he didn't give her a chance to be a decent mother. He walked into his room. Dirty gray dust covered the walls, barely cleaned at all. The room was poorly insulated, extremely hot during the summers, and bitterly cold during the winters. The floor was bare wood, easier to clean. He threw his bag down and plopped onto the mattress. "I can't take it, I just can't." He cried into his pillow, until an idea came into his mind. One that he was hesitant to take. "I don't belong here, I'm not loved here." Deep within his lair, All for One cackled like a madman. All Might was an idiot, but he didn't think he was that much of a moron. Telling his son he couldn't be a hero as his idol. Oh, he could see the horror on the poor child's face when he said those words. He was lucky a security camera was just above the tunnel where the conversation all started. And now he knew for sure. All for One pressed a button on his throne. After a second, a purple misty portal appeared next to him, with a man coming through. The man was tall, wearing a standard bartender uniform. The difference was his hands and head were covered in a thick purple fog. The metal collar around his neck enhanced the very menacing appearance of this new arrival. "You called Master?" The man said politely. "Yes, Kurojiri, I'm going to take a walk. I need you to fetch me the life support mask the doctor made for me. There's something I need to see." All for One smiled eerily that it made Kurojiri shiver for what his intentions were. Nevertheless, he opened another portal and pulled out the black life support mask. It was big and bulky, littered with tubes for air filtration. At the top was a skull design, signifying its intimidating resemblance. Kurojiri handed the mask to All for One before asking, "What do you need to go out for, Master?" "Just curious is all." All for One smiled. He loved when Kurojiri was curious. He was one of the few people he talks to after all. "Oh, Kurojiri, I finally found them. It took some time but I finally found it." Kurojiri was still very confused, so he asked, "Found what, Master?" "I finally found my successor." Toshinori came home a few hours later. He was exhausted from chasing that sludge villain all day. Even more so was waiting at the police station for the villain to be charged. As he was waiting, he thought back to his son. He felt terrible for crushing his dreams like that. He hoped that he brought the boy down slowly, but the look in young Izuku's eyes told him that wasn't the case. He would have to talk with his son, really talk with his son. He hasn't done that in a while. Actually, he doesn't remember the last time they had a chat between the two until today. Maybe they would go out for ice cream. That should be nice. But that would have to wait for later. Today was a wake-up call. How can he be the symbol of peace if he can barely chase one villain? He needed to find a successor. His body just can't hold up for much longer. He needs to pass on One for All. He thought really hard on his options, for stood out in particular. Young Izuku and Izumi would be obvious choices, seeing as they are family, and are able to keep the secret close to them. Young Izumi is a prime candidate. She's strong and confident in her abilities. Her quirk, combined with One for All, could definitely make her the next #1 hero. The question comes from her behavior. Tashinori may be called a meathead, but he isn't stupid. He sees the nasty look she gives to young Izuku when they eat at the dinner table, and while he doesn't know the reason, he may have to talk to them about it. He doesn't question it much. As far as he knew, it was just siblings being siblings. He then thought about Izuku. The kid is very intelligent, that was clear within his notebook, but that's all. He could have considered it if the boy even trained, even a little, to show for it. But giving young Izuku One for All with his body was practically begging the kid to be killed. He didn't want that. No, he didn't want to bring either of the twins into One for All. He remembered Nana having to give her child away, just so he could protect him. It was a sad irony that occurred with Kotaro. He was sent away to be protected, only to hate his own mother because of it, and in doing so, brought his own demise and the demise of his family. Tashinori couldn't bring his family into the secret of One for All. It was only Inko in the family that knew, and she's been real nervous that he might consider young Izumi. Speaking of Shimura, Tenko Shimura. He was also a prime candidate for One for All. But he quickly dropped that thought. Young Tenko was very much a scarred and traumatized kid. Living with Gran Torino definitely helped him out a lot with trusting people again, but he wouldn't want to bring a child so affected by All for One into the fold. His quirk also came into perspective. One for All is a stockpile quirk that can enhance the quirk of their user as well. It happened with Nana as her float quirk mixed with One for All, and so she was able to practically fly. From what he's heard from Gran, young Tenko is truly scared of his quirk, wearing gloves most of the time. Tashinori could only imagine the destruction caused by an accidental activation of a powered-up decay. That left only one left, Nitai's proposal. Mirio Togata. From the records he was given, the kid was an upbeat, outgoing, and very selfless second year at UA. His quirk, permeation, would do very well with One for All. No doubt he could become #1 hero, as even Eraserhead said that he has a likely chance of becoming #1 after All Might retires. Sir Night Eye and Principal Nizu have been proposing Mirio for a while now, and Tashinori is conflicted. From what he's heard, young Togata, he seems like a perfect version of a candidate for One for All, but once you look at him, he reminds Tashinori of a younger version of himself, smile and all. Also, the fact that he barely knows the kid, compared to his other candidates that he knew very well, and also that him and Night Eye haven't seen eye to eye since the incident. He would have to think about a successor soon, though. Villains have been getting more prevalent these last few months, and that only means something bad is about to happen. As he opened the door to his house, finding a table being set by both Izumi and Inko. Izumi was the first to notice and ran up to hug her father. "Welcome home, Dad. How was today?" she asked. Tashinori's mood brightened at the genuine happiness on her face. It was the same old, working on some big stuff, young lady. How was school today? She rolled her eyes, not liking the talk of school. It was alright, we talked about career choices and schools. Me and Kaken signed up to take the entrance exam for UA. She said excitedly. Oh good, you two will definitely be candidates for getting into UA. Tashinori said, proud that his daughter is taking her first steps to becoming a hero. He then went over to Inko, hugged her and asked, "How was your day, honey?" "Oh, nothing much, just a day off, I needed it for a while," she said. Tashinori has been aware that she has been more active in recent weeks due to a lot of stress. He told her to take today off as just 2 days ago she was so agitated she tossed the TV so hard it shattered to pieces. Today she looked better. Tashinori then noticed that one person was not at the dining table. "Say, where is Izuku?" Both Izumi and Inko look at each other and shrug. "He went up to his room that last time I saw him today," Inko said. Strange, Tashinori thought. Izuku was always helping out with the table. Something was wrong and Tashinori had a feeling in his gut that he knew why. "I'll go check up on him," he said as he made his way upstairs. He made to Izuku's room and listened in. Silence. That was weird. He then knocked on the door. "Izuku, hey. It's dinner time. Come downstairs." Again silence. Toshinori was starting to get worried. He knocked again just to be sure. Izuku? Nothing. Toshinori now was for sure something was wrong. He opened the door. As he did, a cold breeze made its way past. He looked inside and gasped. The room was empty, almost looked like it was ransacked, and the window was open. Izuku made his way through the alleys, to not be spotted by anyone on the way. He wore a forest green hoodie, with black sweatpants and his classic red shoes. He brought his yellow backpack, filled with his notebooks, barely fitting in. He had some water bottles and some rations in his bag as well. He had them in his room if his parents forgot to feed him one night, or they left on vacation without him. He had enough that should last about a month. Should be enough time to find somewhere away from the Yagis. Maybe get a part-time job. His dream was gone. His heart burned with rage and sadness. There was nothing left for him. He needed to find something, his purpose in this good-for-nothing society. He couldn't do so in that death trap of a family. Hopefully he could find it before he ran out of food. As he turned left around the corner through the alleyway, he was then interrupted with a voice. Well, what do we have here? Izuku's blood turned cold as he turned swiftly to the man on his right. The man was wearing a no-sleeve black shirt, leather jeans and boots. The man was muscular, with shards of what seemed to be metal sticking out of his skin, primarily the forearms and face. Then man was blonde, with a hairstyle similar to an army man. He had a small scar just about his right eye, and he had a mischievous grin on his face. It's a little too late for a kid like you to be up at this hour, the man said as he walked up to him. Izuku panicked and began to flee, but the man was faster, grabbing a hold of Izuku's hood and pulling him back. Hey no, don't run away, I just wanted to talk, he said, seemingly with malicious intent in his voice. Get of me. Izuku pleaded as he struggled in the man's grip. The man grinned wildly as his forearm coated itself with a hard shell-like gauntlet and proceeded to punch Izuku in the gut. Izuku gasped in pain as the man then threw him to the ground. Here's what gonna happen, kid. You're gonna give me all your money or else, the man said with animosity in his tone. I don't have any, Izuku said, curled into a ball, tearing up from the pain. Liar, the man said as he picked the boy up by his shirt's collar, pushed the boy right up to the alley wall, and proceeded to punch the boy's face with the shelled gauntlet arm. Over and over. Blooded from the boy's mouth mixed in with the tear leaking from the boy's eyes. Izuku barely held onto consciousness, trying in vain to fight back, kicking and squirm, but to no avail. It seemed all hope was lost, that he was going to die in this alleyway. I would advise you to stop what you are doing. Before the man could punch him again, an ominous voice was heard from the entrance to the alleyway. It was another man, wearing a designer suit, dress pants, and dress shoes that give off a businessman style. Though that's where the resemblance stops as you look towards their head, which is fitting with a black mask, with tubes covering the base and a skull design for where the face should be. If you would please drop the boy, you will be able to leave here alive. The masked man threatened with an eerily calm tone, like he has done this 1,000 times over. Who the fuck are you? You think you can tell me what to do? The thug asked in an angry tone. He then proceeded to drop the barely conscious boy and rushed the masked man. The man didn't move, allowing the thug throw a punch with the gauntlet arm. Before the punch could connect, the masked man finally moved and caught the punch with ease. This shocked the thug as he tried to pull his arm back, but to no avail. Ah, hard shell, such a wonderful quirk you have here, I must add it to my collection. From the playful tone of the masked man, one could say he was grinning. As red lightning suddenly shot out from his hand that was holding onto the thug. The thug screamed in pain as it felt like the man was grabbing hold of his very essence. The gauntlet then vanished from the man's arm, as well as the metal sticking out from other parts of the body. What did you do? The thug cried out. The masked man didn't answer, just lifted his other arm towards the thug. Air cannon plus spring-like limbs, the masked man said as a violent torrent of wind shot out from his hand and collided with the thug, sending him to the other side of the alley and into the wall. When the dust settled, there was nothing of the man other than the blood that stained the impact area. After all was said and done, the masked man just wiped his hand and walked over to the boy, who barely propped himself, drifting in and out of consciousness. He then lowered himself to be eye level with the injured child. It seems that I came just in time, young one. If I hadn't, then you would be dead right now." The man's voice was calm, less eerie and more soothing in an uncomfortable way. "W3. Yo, you." Izuku tried his hardest to speak, but the gurgles of blood still in his mouth made it difficult to speak. "Save your strength, child. In all honesty, I've been watching you for quite some time." That didn't make Izuku feel any better. This society is only ruled by those of the strong and leave the ones who aren't behind. But I can see the potential in you, potential just waiting to be unleashed from its chains. "Bibu." Izuku said, not understanding the man. Why would he see potential in him? He's a nobody, he can't save himself, how could he do anything? "You're right, you are. But I can help with that." The man then extended his hand to the young boy. "I can give you the power to show them all. Show them that they were wrong, show this society that they were wrong about you, you just need to take my hand." Izuku didn't know what to do. This man was obviously a villain. I mean, he just killed someone in cold blood. But he did save him, and he said he could give him power. Izuku wanted to be a hero, someone who can save people. But everyone has told him he couldn't, that he should be realistic. In that moment, the rage and anger, depression and sadness. He hated them. Hated the world, hated society. Shakily, he then took the man's hand. The police were called over to the sound of fighting in the back alleyway. When the officers looked around, they saw blood all around the area. Mostly in the impact crater. An officer looking over the crime scene did notice a piece of paper next to the alley wall. He proceeded to pick it up to see it a burnt paper, mostly likely belonging to a notebook. He then saw what was on it. It was a real signature of All Might. Hours earlier, Izumi made it back into the house. After hanging out with Kaken and a bunch of their cronies at the arcade, she decided to head home for the evening. She was greeted by her mother, who asked how her day went. "It was great, Mom. Me and Kaken went to the arcade after school. We had a blast," she said happily. As she made her way upstairs, she heard rustling in the upstairs bathroom. When the door opened, she saw Izuku. He was carrying a toothbrush, toothpaste, and other toiletries out of the bathroom. What surprised her was his face. He looked honestly terrible. Tear stains were seen all down to his neck, eyes that were puffy and red. His face gave off the aura of contempt just underneath the surface, like he was about to scream at any moment. "Izuku? What are you doing?" she asked. This behavior was unusual for the green-haired twin. He looked at her, before turning for his room, not saying anything. Before he opened the door, he asked, "What did I do?" This confused the girl for a moment. Before she realized, he continued, "Why do you hate? Did I do something wrong? We're twins, but none of you ever look at me the same. So why do everything you put me through?" He was pleading to know the answer. Izumi looked at him, then her face formed back into a face of disgust. Then she sighed, "Because you were born. You're a disgrace to this family," she said with finality to the conversation. Izuku didn't cry for once. He expected something like this from his cold-hearted sister. It finally confirmed something in the young boy's mind. He barely turned to look at her, but in that time, she could see it. The rage in his eyes, like glowing flames. He then turned and went into his room and slammed the door shut. She didn't hear from him after that. She only knew what happened after. Detective Tsukachi didn't know what to do. For the first time in his career, he hated working on a case. They had gotten a call from a civilian about a fight in Mizudafu, hearing screaming and an explosion. They had sent a hero and police to check up on the crime scene, and what they found was awful. Blood coated the alleyway. There was definitely a fight. The fact there was a giant hole in the wall covered in blood confirmed that much. But the DNA analysis from it hit Tsukachi to his very core. Katai Muzakabo, a man in his 30s, was found at the crime scene, or what remained of him. The blooded in the crater confirmed it was him. The specialists on site have stated that it had to be an extreme amount of force to be able to pulverize a person to mere non-existence, especially since his quirk created a hardened reinforced shell, strong enough to deflect 9mm rounds, around any of his body parts. That was bad enough, but what worried him more was the other person's blood they found on the opposite wall. Izuku Yagi, stepson of the #1 hero All Might. He had gotten a call from Toshinori only a few hours ago that Izuku was missing, with his room ravaged. He had quickly sent out a missing persons case, hopefully to find the missing boy soon. But this new developed severely dampened his mood. The boy's body wasn't there, thank goodness. But there was enough evidence to know the boy was injured badly. There was enough blood that could lead the boy to blood loss if he wasn't found. He prayed the boy was still alive, not slowly dying a needless death in some back alley. But that begs the question, who helped the boy? There was nothing to point to of who had helped Izuku Yagi. The only thing to mention was their terrifying power. Tsukachi was definitely scared for the boy's well-being, exemplified by the fact the boy was quirkless, with no means to defend himself. Tsukachi hoped they could find the boy soon. As he looked over to his right, sealed within a plastic bag for evidence was the burnt notebook page with All Might's signature. He needed to call Toshinori and update him on the situation. It was a phone call he would hate to make. He just hoped it wasn't too late to save the young boy. The All for One was giddy at the moment. He had just taken in All Might's son into his grasp. He was dropped off with the doctor currently to help fix the boy up so he didn't die before he could begin his training. The boy would be an excellent successor to his plan. His rage and hatred, paired with such a brilliant mind for examining quirks, would help him succeed in becoming the new symbol of fear. The notebooks within the boy's bag confirmed it such. He had a look through them, of course. Due to his lack of eyes, he needed his sensory quirks he collected over the years after his fall in order to read them, but what made him confirm that Izuku was perfect? The details going into not just heroes' quirks, but villains and passerbys. Support gear that could help exceed their limits, how they could be used in unique ways, the list goes on. It only showed how intelligent the boy was beneath the surface, something he would nurture beyond what it was now, that was for sure. Maybe some help with the doctor as well. He would need training, however. Kurogyari would see to that immediately. He couldn't give him a quirk if his body wasn't able to handle it. He would also need to teach the boy how the underworld works as soon as possible. As the king of the underworld for so long, he could give the boy tips and tricks that could help him persuade others to his cause. Yes, both of these things, he thought, would be easy for a child a mind such as Izuku's. He only needed to nurture the rage and point them in the right direction. Straight at All Might. Oh, he could just imagine the horrified look on his face when he finally revealed his true origins. He would need a new name to stay under the radar though. All for One thought about names but couldn't think of one that would fit currently, maybe after the child got his quirk that he will fully name him. For now he would still have his first name, with Shigaraki being his new family name. Just then, the monitor on his right glowed purple, signifying the doctor calling him, "Master," he said. All for One turned his attention to one of his most loyal servants. "Ah, doctor, how is my boy? I hope it wasn't too much for you." "It was not a problem, my lord. The boy is currently in a stable condition. Sadly, he would have a scar across his face due to the powerful beating he took," the doctor said, hoping it didn't upset his master. "Ah, scars build character, my friend. I should know." All for One replied, signaling to his messed-up facial features after his battle against the symbol of peace. "But you wouldn't call me so suddenly if there wasn't something of interest." "Well, my lord, your successor has some interesting results regarding his DNA. I was checking through his vitals and was able to take a blood sample from the boy. He is indeed quirkless, but what interests me is his DNA structure. It's changing," the doctor exclaimed with a menacing glee in his voice. "Explain, doctor," All for One said with no room for questioning. He was interested in the recent discovery as well. "Of course, master. You see, the boy's body seems to be adapting to multiple different stimuli, without a quirk. It seems the boy's body and mind adapt faster than the average human. My theory of quirk evolution is coming to fruition if this quirkless child can truly gain a phenomenon without the core ingredient of a quirk factor. It's basically etched into the DNA. He might get stronger, faster, and smarter than the average person with a basic plan. From what you've said about the boy's intelligence, he could be college levels of intelligence at this current point in time. It's incredible, I must study this more thoroughly. Calm yourself, doctor, you can test all you want with the samples you got from him. I need him to be in top shape. This revelation may help in speeding up the boy's growth. All for one exclaimed. Truthfully, he was fascinated as well with the revelation. He may just be able to give the boy a quirk faster than intended. He loves it when a plan comes together. The boy will be his triumph over hero society once and for all. 2 weeks later, Izuku was in his own thoughts at the moment. Ever since he woke up, he thought about how everything led up to this. He was taken in by Sensei, giving him his own place to stay. It was a nice, quiet bar in Kamino, Dead Man's Drink. It wasn't anything too fancy, some booths near the wall, lights that gave the bar a golden glow, clean all around. It felt like quaint, nice. His room was in the back of the bar. Up a stairway, there were the regular commodities, like a bed, blanket, pillows, a desk with fresh clothes within, and a new laptop. It wasn't much, but he felt comfortable, nothing like his old home. He even had his old bag and his notebooks on top of his desk. The bartender Kurojiri was told to be his guide. Someone that will help him with whatever he needed, whenever he needed. Kurojiri, while looking menacing with yellow eyes piercing through purple fog, was very polite and welcoming to the young boy upon arriving. He quickly came to respect and even saw Kurojiri as a mentor. Well, after he went giddy over Kurojiri's warp gate quirk the first time he used it. But Kurojiri didn't mind. In fact, he quite enjoyed the young boy's exuberant energy from time to time. After getting settled in, he was immediately put to training. Kurojiri taught him how to fight in hand-to-hand combat, while also making Izuku work out in order to gain muscles. If he was to be on the other side of the law, he better learn how to defend himself sooner rather than later. He also trained on stealth, when to keep quiet, how to be unnoticeable in crowd areas, how to attack while being hidden, and where the best place to sneak around. Izuku needed to learn this especially for Sensei, as he sent Izuku on specific trips. These were actually the easiest for Izuku to learn, as he had to do this all his life against his bullies. This was all done in an old warehouse in an abandoned part of Kamino. Kurojiri was surprisingly great at hand-to-hand combat, teaching Izuku the hard way. The first couple of weeks he didn't even land a hit on Kurojiri, and this was without him using his quirk. Izuku Shigaraki, you're spacing out again. Kurojiri said, snapping Izuku out of his thoughts as a kick to his stomach sent him spiral away from his opponent. Izuku quickly got up and blocked the incoming punch with his left forearm. He then pushed the arm away to get in close, but Kurojiri read this and backed away from the incoming jab from Izuku. Izuku then back away, thinking of another strategy to hit Kurojiri. This was how their training sessions would go. Constant back and forth. Izuku was getting better at a fast pace, employing new tactics on the fly. While he hasn't been able to properly hit Kurojiri yet, even after all this time. He knew it wasn't likely, he was just a novice learning while Kurojiri has had many years perfecting his movements. After their training session was over for the day, Kurojiri walked up to Izuku with a fresh towel. You're getting better, young master, I saw you moving around more than before. Those save your retrospectives for outside the battlefield. Kurojiri said, as Izuku's face flushed, knowing that some of what he thought may have came out of his mouth. He was still working on that. Sorry, still trying to get rid of it. It's just an old habit. Izuku said, trying his best not to stutter anymore. It was also a bad habit he was working on if he wanted to be taken seriously. I guess the saying, old habits die hard, is still true after all. Kurojiri joked, which made the both of them giggle. Kurojiri then looked at his watch. You better get going, you don't want to be late. It was past noon, that meant he had his daily session with Sensei. He quickly got dressed into less sweaty clothing, grabbed his newest notebook, and asked Kurojiri to open a portal to Sensei. Before he entered the portal, he looked down at the cover of his latest notebook. Quirk notes for Sensei. As Izuku exits the warp gate, he is greeted to a dark room, almost pitch black. The exception was the ominous green glow at the other side of the corridor. There, all for one sat on his throne, barely illuminated by the green light of the machinery around him. Ah, Izuku my boy, how was your training with Kurojiri? Sensei asked, Being polite as he already knew what happened, he just wanted to hear it from his new protege. I have been getting a lot better, sensei, though I haven't been able to even come close to actually beating Kuroji. Izuku said, dropping his head as he felt like he wasn't getting much better as sensei would like. Nonsense, my boy. Rome was not built in a day. Take your time, you will get there, I'm sure of it. Now, do you have what I seek? Sensei asked. Izuku lifted his hand carrying the notebook and held it up for Sensei to take. Sensei used one of his telekinesis quirks to lift the book out of Izuku's hands. Izuku flinched a little, reminding him of his damn sister, but he wouldn't show it to Sensei, it would be very rude. Sensei had sent out Izuku on many jobs, doing so to help improve on Izuku's intelligence and note-taking. He would send Izuku out to a specific region of Japan to find a person with a particular quirk to write down. He would write their strengths and weaknesses, how to use them, the person's address, habits, locations of interest, everything about them. Then Sensei would send someone to retrieve them, usually Kuroji. Most of the time they were criminals, back-alley dealers, or heroes that were low on the rankings and could easily be forgotten about. Today Izuku was tasked with giving Sensei all the information about a certain criminal known as Itoro Kajisuchi. A known villain with 30 counts of attempt murder, 12 counts of first-degree murder and many other charges. His quirk, Impure Beam, was an excellent quirk to be paired with all for one's own growing arsenal of quirks thanks to Izuku's help. Sensei also went over how the underworld worked with Izuku, making sure the boy was aware of all the simplest things. Things like never turn your back with a plan of counterattack, or to use subtle wordplay to persuade people with less intelligence than their own. He also talked about informants and brokers, and how they were the backbone of the underworld, able to give and take information with the right price. Izuku absorbed all the knowledge his sensei gave like a sponge, truly taking to word everything the man said. After all, he was the only one to truly help him in his time of need. The most considerate thing to do was to listen and take his lessons to heart. All for one had taken accustomed to Izuku's frivolous analysis skills. He would play chess with Izuku with the goal of checking the king with the least amount of pieces lost on his side. In other words, putting Izuku's brain to the test in making plans for the future. Of course, All for One wasn't clearly playing to win. It was a master at chess, and Izuku was barely a novice. This was only to gauge his skill with creating complex maneuvers. Though the boy was intelligent, there were some things that held him back from his true potential. At first, Izuku struggled with creating strategies to counter All for One that resulted in no casualties, even when there was a clear way to win with sacrificing pawns. All for One chalked it up to Izuku's selfless nature still being in play, similar to Yoichi. Oh, how similar they were in every way. As he was done reading the in-depth notes, he hands back the notebook to Izuku. You know, Izuku, your progress is going quite well. In fact, you are exceeding all my expectations for you. All for One said. This put a wide smile on Izuku's face, taking in the praise that he needed for so long. Thank you, sensei. I couldn't do it without you. You are far too generous, Izuku. All of this is for you to grow. To become something more than the quirkless boy you were before. I am here to help you succeed beyond All Might or even your sister. All for One said. He knew that would bring up feeling of hate within Izuku, as the boy's eyes quickly looked down at the floor, turning into pinpricks, and the smile the boy had went back into a straight face, almost turning into a frown. He had been slowly nurturing the boy's hatred ever since the boy awoke. It was hard at first. The boy was good at hiding his emotions from everyone, including himself. The boy had the same level of innocence as his younger brother. The difference was that All for One learned from his mistakes with Yoichi, and he was slowly chipping away at the boy's heart. It started small, with getting the boy to hate his most prominent bullies in his former best friend and sister. Then to the other children who laughed at the boy wherever he went. Then the teachers would did nothing but perpetuate the cycle of violence. Finally to the random people on the street who pitied him or saw him as nothing but a waste of air. He needed something to fan the flames in his destructive heart. He was thinking of showing Izuku how hero society truly was next. That would bring the hatred out of the boy even more so. Then, and only then would he tell him the truth about All Might, being his father that left him to the wolves. He could envision the rage burst from the seams. Oh, it would be a wonderful display. But not right now. He had time before Izuku was ready, and when he was, all would fear him. After the boy calmed himself, all for one sent him back to eat. He needed to plan out the next steps for the boy in the coming months. If the boy truly would be his successor, he needed to learn how to truly be a villain. He started planning out certain tests for the boy going forward. Only then could the boy truly earn his name and his quirk. Within one of the screens next to the symbol of evil, it shows the lab of the infamous Dr. Garaki. Dr. Garaki was currently working with different substances, labeled with various quirk names. One of the vials was smaller than the rest. There wasn't much of it, only a 1/4 of a cup within. It was a gray liquid within a small vial with the label, decay. Couple of days later, Izuku was out, walking through the alleys of Fukuoka, in Kyushu. He was wearing his usual outing attire. His forest green hoodie that was a little torn in some areas, matching gloves, black combat pants, signature red sneakers, and his signature notebook he was currently writing in. The newest addition to his arsenal was the black respirator he was wearing. It was a gift from Sensei for all the excellent progress he had been making over the last couple of weeks. The respirator was modeled to look like teeth, meant to be intimidating to everyone else. It also had a voice modifier to make his voice unrecognizable. He had just gotten done fishing his analysis on the criminal known as Pinch. His quirk, Pocket, allows him to create a small pocket dimension within a pocket of clothing. He can fit an unlimited amount of items within the pocket dimension. The catch is that he can only put an item into the pocket dimension that can physically fit into the pocket he's using. The man was found around the city pickpocket unsuspecting passerbys, then storing the loot he collected within pocket. He would also carry weapons with his quirk, able to cross through metal detectors within the train station and banks while hiding a knife or pistol. As Izuku was finishing writing down his notes, he heard squelching on his left around the corner. He was concerned about another attack from a thug like last time, but was also pretty curious. His curious mind took over, but he was cautious this time as he snuck to the wall to peer over to see what was going on. And as they say, curiosity killed the cat, as what he saw made him want to puke. He saw a girl crouching over a dead body. The girl was similar age to his own, with blonde hair tied into 2 messy buns. She was wearing a yellow cardigan and a blue skirt, fitting a uniform from another school. Her eyes were cat-like, with pinprick irises. She was currently holding a bloodied box cutter knife in one hand and a straw in the other, with the straw being inserted into the wounded of the deceased individual in front of her. She was red with blush as she slurped on the poor victim's blood. Izuku was horrified by the sight, and was about to turn back, when her eyes fell onto him from the corner of her vision. She stopped slurping and immediately got up to face him. "Hi, I'm Himiko Toga." "Oh wow, you're so cute," she said with full glee, showing her vampire-like fangs through her smile. "You are than Dash," he said before being cut off. "You would look so much cuter all cut up and bloody though." Then she rushed Izuku. Why does this keep happening, Izuku thought, as he prepared himself to fight for his life a 3rd time this month. Next chapter, first kill. Izuku dodged the incoming thrust from Toga's knife, swerving to the side as she passed by. She immediately twisted so her body faced him as she swung in a wide arc. Izuku backpedaled and continued to dodge the swipes and thrusts from Toga. Even though he was dodging, she was also slippery, able to evade many of Izuku's punches and kicks with relative ease. "This isn't working, I'm getting more tired than her. Think, Izuku, think," he thought as he dodged another swing. But Toga swiftly twists her knife to barely cut Izuku's cheek. Blood starts to drip from the small cut. "Oh, you're looking cuter already. Maybe bleed a little more," Toga said as she continued her onslaught while Izuku dodged effectively. She was faster than Kurogiri for sure, but she was also more telegraphed than him. Her movements are erratic, uncontrolled. "I can use this." Then he saw his opening. Quickly he rushes her, which throws Toga off guard. He then palm strikes Toga's hand, making her lose her knife. While she's disarmed, he then grabs her other arm, flips her around, and pins her to the floor. "Oh, I didn't think we would be this rough already," she cooed, making Izuku's face red like a tomato. She uses this opportunity to kick his leg out from under him, making him fall as she flips them around to pin Izuku on the ground instead, facing her as she looked down at him hungrily, specifically at the cut on his cheek. Both were panting from exhaustion as they looked into each other's eyes. Izuku, now that he had time to think, looked deep into the cat-like eyes of Toga. He found a very predatory nature on the surface, but now that he got a good look into them, he could see something he didn't expect: fear. He thought back to how he found her in the first place, drinking blood out of a dead corpse. Blood. It had to be because of her quirk. Why else would she be out here? He decided to take a shot in the dark. Wait. Yeah, why will you need blood, alright? Izuku said, still stuttering about having a girl on top of him. Toga's eyes widened, her smile dropped. She then scowled, her eyes taking a more intense predatory gaze. How do you know that? Are you one of those heroes? She questioned, with malice dripping from every word. No. I'm not with the heroes, I'm just good with analysis. Do you need it? He asked, scared that he was making a mistake of some kind. Toga's eyes softened a bit, but the skepticism was still there. Yeah, I need it. Because of my quirk. Have a problem with that? She replied with less malice than last time, but there was still a predatory growl mixed at the end. And no, I'm not judging you for anything. Really, I get it. Her eyes widened again as her grip on the boy loosened. The boy wasn't judging her for anything. He wasn't saying she was a monster, that she's a freak. He just understood. I understand most people judge from what quirk they were born with. I can relate to that. Izuku felt her grip loosen more. He slowly got up, still staring into her eyes. She slowly got off him. It was more from shock as her body just went along. Her mind was somewhere else. I know how it feels to be alone. I've been alone most of my life. So, I understand. It seemed like time had stopped for only a few moments. Then tears started to flow down Toga's face. Izuku was honestly surprised. He didn't mean to make her cry. He was about to apologize until she spoke. Why? Izuku was confused on what she meant until she continued. Why are you relating to me? I attacked you, tried to hurt you. So why? Izuku thought about this for a moment. He was a villain, well, soon-to-be villain. He didn't do anything illegal yet. He was meant to be evil, someone who could give less a crap about the world he's living in. But as he pondered about this, he thought back to when his sensei saved him, back to when he was shown kindness from someone for the first time in his life. If sensei was truly evil, he would have left him to die there. And Kurogiri, he was always positive towards him, something very foreign to the green-haired teen. So was the world truly black and white as hero society made it out to be? Of course it was. Because you looked like you needed help. He then opened his backpack. In it was his notebook, burner phone, some medical supplies, a hunting knife and a few syringes. The knife was from his training with Kurogiri, as he had to learn how to use a weapon effectively since he is quirkless. The syringes, however, were from Sensei. He was told that sometime in the future, when he had more training, he would be taking DNA samples from heroes instead of low-level thugs. The syringes were custom-made with a numbing agent at the tip of the needle, so they are practically painless. He then took one of the syringes out. While he hadn't had true medial training, he did have medical training with Kurogiri, with the doctor's help. He inserted the needle into his arm. As the red liquid starting filling it up, Toga eyed it the entire time. Once it was full, he slowly took it out. Here, you can have some of mine. He then handed it to Toga. Her eyes slowly moving from the glass cylinder to Izuku. Why? She asked, genuinely trying to understand what's going on. It felt like a dream, where her knight in shining armor came to save her from the world. Only the knight had green hair, a scar across his face, and the shining green eyes. You need blood, so I'm giving some to you. Are you sure? You don't need to dash. I'm doing it because I want to. He saw genuine happiness within the girl's eyes for the first time since they met. She opened the syringe and downed it with a smile across her face. Her blush came back, and she proceeded to hug the young boy, much to his shock of having a girl hugging him. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you dash. She then stopped, and looked at him with embarrassment. I don't know your name. Oh, sorry, guess it didn't really come up. Both of them got up from the floor. I'm Izuku Shigaraki. I'm Himiko Toga, but you knew that already. And like that, a friendship through two lost souls were born that night. Couple of weeks later, after the grueling training with Kurogiri in the morning, Izuku decided to grab a civilian outfit. Today was a day he would hang out with Toga. After their clash, they decided to give their numbers and hang out every once in a while. They got to know each other a bit more, and today they were going to the mall. Izuku had to disguise himself. He chose one of his black hoodies that sensei gave him, regular sweatpants and his red shoes. He could have changed his hair, but most heroes wouldn't notice him. He had a very bland face, including his scar, ironically. It helped that he didn't stand out as much than other people. It made getting around quite easy. Kurogiri, I'll be out for a while, he said, passing by the bartender at the counter. Of course, Master Shigaraki. Kurogiri replied, eyeing the boy as he left. Be careful still. Izuku turned to him and smiled. As he left, Kurogiri noticed that the TV was on. The purple glow with the audio-only text meant that Sensei was listening in, as always. Master, if I may ask? What do you think of the young master's new friend? Kurogiri stood there, waiting for a reply from the screen. It took a while, but then all for one spoke. I think it's a good thing, Kurogiri. It gives young Izuku a new perspective on villainy, and most importantly fuels his ever-present hatred for hero society. Yes, it is a good thing he found this Himiko Toga when he did. He can learn from her more than we could provide, and even push him to villainy more than we could tying around here. This could also strengthen his leadership skills, having someone he can rely upon. She could be a great pick for our new villain organization. Does that help ease your mind, Kurogiri? Kurogiri nodded. Yes, master, I just want the boy to grow into his best self he can be. As he said this, he looked out at the doorway Izuku had left. Toga and Izuku are walking through the mall plaza, having gotten some ice cream from the local vendor. They were talking about their lives before. Izuku had learned more about Toga's quirk and how it works. She can transform into anyone, but needs to ingest the blood of the person she wants to transform into. That's mostly the reason she is transformed into young woman with flowing indigo-colored hair currently. Izuku may have went on a muttering spree when he first learned about it, which confused the hell out of Toga the first time he did it. He apologized to her, but she didn't mind. She liked the quirkier side of Izuku, which shocked the young boy. Nobody ever liked his muttering sprees, outside of Kurogiri and Sensei, but even with them he had to tone it back for them. To hear that someone liked something of his was nice. They had talked about their lives before. Toga spoke about how her abusive parents treated her like a monster, and Izuku felt a connection there. They both had shitty parents, who thought they were not worth their love. With Izuku being quirkless and Toga having more of a villain's quirk. Then came the question Izuku didn't expect Toga to say, so Izuku-kun, have you killed anyone yet? The question came out of nowhere as they were still in a public area. Well, sorta, they took seats in a more isolated part of the mall. Barely anyone came around there. What? I just asked you killed anyone, Izuku-kun. If you are really going into the villain business, death is a constant, and killing is going to be something you're gonna have to do. Izuku looked at the ground. He knew she was right, but the thought of killing someone left an uneasy knot in his stomach. You don't have to kill random people or even innocents. Just people you hate. As she said this, Izuku thought back to his family. His hate for them only grew and grew the more he talked with Sensei, the more he talked with Toga, and the more he's seen the world through this newfound freedom. He felt stupid for trying to reason with them, trying to make excuses for their behavior. Toga could see this in his eyes. Sometimes it unnerved her when he got angry. He usually wasn't. After a minute he finally spoke. How do you kill? I understand. It's something I was gonna learn eventually. I just don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I'm strong enough to make them pay for what they did. Toga looked at him and then began thinking herself. Save your family for later. Try someone smaller, someone you can get away with without looking too suspicious. I can help you if you like. Izuku thought about this while they were eating. case Bakugo would be just as hard as his family, so he was out. His classmates at Aldra were a good start, but then they could trace them back to him. Then he remembered the one person who he hated at that school. He would always take Izumi and Bakugo's side whenever they were sent to his office. Ever since Aldra Elementary, he had wanted that man to get his just deserves. Maybe now would be the time. It was late in the evening. Principal Alpileps was finishing up paperwork. He was compiling the exam scores for the third years to go into their respective high schools. Obviously, he only focused on the two main stars of the school, Katsuki Bakugo and Izumi Yagi, both going to UA. They had a good chance at making it in, given their grades and quirks, though he was worried about Izumi's mental health. She wasn't saying much, but her grades did drop a little after her brother went missing, but her grades were steadily improving since then. He understood losing a family member can be harrowing for a young child, especially if it was a close family member like a sibling. Though seeing her bounce back was a good thing in his opinion. Her brother was quirkless after all, they don't last long in modern society. It was only the natural progression of things. As he looked over his desk, he sees the cover of one of his books. The Meta-Liberation War. Strong quirks were the only choice for the human species to evolve, and the weak would be left behind. It was that philosophy that he had been imprinting into the young children's minds. Soldiers that never knew they were soldiers. Why Redestro allowed him to take control of the school in the first place, to influence the young minds of today, to bring liberation tomorrow. Izuku and Toga are seen outside of the school, with Izuku wearing his villain costume. They were near the breaker box on the outside of the building. Izuku remembered what he was taught by Sensei, that in order to make people fear you, you need to take away their safety first. So he did just that by cutting the power to the building. Pulling out bolt cutters from his backpack, he cut the lights and camera feed. No one will be able to tell it was them. They both nod to each other, taking the nearest entrance inside, the window. Principal Alpileps jumped when all the power in the building turned off. He frantically grabbed his flashlight from his cabinet, turning it on almost instantly. It took him a second to calm himself. He groaned, thinking that the janitor must have turned off the power for the night without checking if no one was inside. His thoughts were cut short when he heard glass shatter outside of his office. He was starting to get a little nervous. He tried to use his phone, but the internet was down. Carefully, he pulls out his old Western-style revolver from his desk and walks over to the door, opening it slowly. He peeks his eye out to look for any threats. When he saw nothing, he opened the door fully. He began to walk down to the hallway, slowly. He began to make his way down the stairs. He felt like he was in a horror movie, waiting for the monster to pounce onto him. All he needed to do was get to the generator room, there he can turn the power back on. As he made his way downstairs, he saw that the window in front of him was broken. He was now very scared, practically aiming his gun around him, waiting for something to come out of each corner. When he makes it to the generator room, he opens it and immediately closes and locks it behind him. It was the safest place to be. He was then confused. Why? Because the generator was already on. The lights in the room turned on and he looks behind him to see Izuku blocking the door. Before the principal has any time to shoot, his hand was stabbed by Toga as she laughs as his distraught screams of pain. As he fell to the floor, Izuku walks over and picks up the dropped gun, examining it fully, before pocketing it away for future use. While he's doing that, Toga takes pleasure in holding the principal down for him. Here you go, Izuku-an, he's right here. The principal's eye widen more than they did before. Izuku-an. Like Izuku, as in Izuku Yagi. What was he doing here? How was he alive? These thoughts flooded the man's mind as Izuku walks slowly towards. He was nervous about going this. He had never taken a life before. But he knew deep down, they were too far in for them to turn back. And in some small part of himself, he wanted this. As he made his way towards the principal, the old man pleaded out, Please Izuku, please you don't have to do this. I'm sorry, just please don't dash. He was silenced when Izuku pulled out his own hunting knife and sliced the throat of the man. The principal's eyes were tearing up as his throat filled up with blood. Izuku felt a rush like never before, like adrenaline pumping through his veins. He thought back to the times where Izumi and Bakugo beat him to near death, with the man just watching from the window. He thought back to when his father came to the school worried about his son's health, having run scars all around his body. The principal just said it was from boys playing and that Izuku should be careful when playing with boys with quirks. He then thought back to when his parents found out he was doing terribly in all his classes when Izuku knew he wasn't. Finding out the principal messed with his record to make him look worse just because of his status. He was brought back to reality by Toga putting her hand on his shoulder. He looked at her. She had a surprised look on her face, filled with some type of worry, but also excitement. He then looked back at the principal, but he wished he didn't. The body had repeated stab holes littered throughout, blood and organs flowing out. It was all disgusting. Izuku looked at his hands. His gloves and hoodie were covered in blood, with the knife still having some organic tissue attached to it. He couldn't remember what he did. Did he do this? It was all so fast. Izuku felt sick, knowing he enjoying most of it. Toga then grabbed him and pulled him up. Come on, let's go before we get caught by a janitor or something. Izuku agreed, following her out through the window they entered. They ran through the alleyways, making sure they would never be caught. Once they made it to a safe space, Toga grabbed his shoulder and shook him. Izuku-san, that was amazing. You stabbed him so much, all the blood and guts, all of it on you. It was so hot. Watching you stab him over and over made you look so cute. Oh my god, your first kill and you aced it, oh my cutie, becoming a big strong villain. Izuku was half paying attention, but also was thinking back on what he had just done. He was a villain now, true and true. Like an initiation. He had just killed someone. Someone he hated. He enjoyed it. It made him feel very weird inside, and then he turned green. In the face. Izuku proceeded then to vomit in the nearest trash bin, with Toga watching over him, patting his back in comfort. Yeah, he'll need to get used to this. But it was a start. Gore warning, mostly in the fight scenes. Detective Tsukachi arrived at the school early in the morning. The entire Aldra school district was shut down until further notice by the police and the heroes nearby. The police had gotten a call from one of the school's janitors who came in early that morning. He noticed that the breaker box outside was cut and the building was in low power. He went to call the principal of the school, who he couldn't get a hold of. When he went to turn on the generator after a couple more attempts at calling the principal, he realized why all too late. Principal Alpileps was found dead in the generator room. Multiple stab wounds were found and some of the intestines were outside the body. The school was immediately shut down and the police began investigating the school. Tsukachi looked around the crime scene. The killer was very thorough in not leaving any evidence of their existence behind. The main power was cut so they couldn't look into the camera system, as the generator only powered the lights, not the security system. The broken window didn't give much either, as the window was broken into by a rock from outside, which was now inside on the floor. Testing for any fingerprints on the body or weapon proved nothing as there, meaning they either wore gloves or the blood washed them away. The weapon used for killing the man was easy enough to identify. Knives are commonplace and easy to hold. The specifics of the wounds came up with a hunting knife, due to their specific serrated edge. Finding their killer is going to be finding a needle in a haystack. They need more information than what they have. Tsukachi took a sip of his coffee. Suddenly his phone started to ring. He saw the caller ID was Toshinori. Hello, Tsukachi. Any luck on finding the killer? Said All Might through the phone. No, whoever it is, we're very careful with their approach. Not a trace of any DNA evidence, only the body. I already talked with the janitor for his testimony, and scything he said came out positive. Tsukachi said, that's quite concerning. There has to be something there. We're looking into it. How is Izumi? She's better. It's been a rough month for us. Her brother left, maybe even died. Then this happened. She's been talking with young Bakugo for most of the time. They left to get out of the house. I think fresh air is what they need. All Might sighed. He hated seeing his daughter in such distress these last couple of weeks. How is the search for young Izuku? Tsukachi sighed. He knew this was coming. They're nothing at the moment. We are still searching for any trace of him or his kidnapper. I'm sorry, All Might. Don't be Tsukachi, it's my fault. I failed him as a father and a hero. I will make sure I don't make the same mistakes again. Just please make sure you find him. I know, Toshinori, I am a little peeved about what you did, more so your wife. But I can understand on some level. You wanted his safety to be your top priority, and I respect that. I just hope he is still alive to hear you out. As Tsukachi says this, Toshinori, now All Might, is umping from building to building. After Izuku's disappearance, he has been searching for the boy near constantly. Inko was also, but she was working on a case with Hawks in Kyushu as the moment. Something about some deaths there, he wasn't listening much. He was constantly looking around, trying to spot the tuft of green hair wherever possible. Sadly, he came short every time. I hope you're right, Tsukachi, I hope you're right. 2 months later. Night encompasses the city of Tokyo, as we cut to a specific warehouse in the north of the city. A white truck makes its way inside, allowing some gang member to park and deposit some of their supplies. You have everything in here? One of the men come close. He was tall, having a ponytail in the back. Yo Kabuto, leader of the Eastern Dragon Gang, asked. Yes sir, all of the trigger is here. One of the goons replied. The leader looked over the boxes and opened one himself. He sees vials upon vials of the purple substance. He takes one out and inspects it more closely. He then smiles. Put all the shipments in the back, we got a buyer early in the morning. The goons did as they were told and carried the large boxes away. As they were doing this, something eerie began to fill the entrance of the warehouse. A black cloud formed in the center and started expanding. Suddenly 2 figures appeared from out of the dark abyss. Izuku Shigaraki walked out of Kurogiri's portal. He was wearing a newly modified villain costume. The same green hoodie was there but modified to handle threats. A combat vest was sewn into the hoodie to protect his chest and abdominal regions. There were still cuts and rips with the hoodie's arms, though it made it all the more intimidating. The hoodie also had 2 long tufts hanging off the hood, with 2 eye holes cut in to make a cowl, with dark lenses inside to hide the entirety of his face with only the glowing green eyes visible. His jaw-like respirator mask made his face look like a demon. He had his red combat belt, with his black combat pants with added armor around the knees. His shoes were the same red shoes but with added plating for maximum amount of damage. He had his green combat gloves, with metal around his knuckles. He had his signature black combat knife and a gun holster filled with an old Western-style silver revolver. Next to him was what could be described as a behemoth. It was a hulking monstrous creature, with blackened skin and bulging, torn muscles all over. It was wearing simple pants with skull emblems on its knee pads. The most disturbing thing was the head. Yellow beak, constantly grinning, thoughtless eyes, and an exposed brain. Finally, the dark mist settles as 2 yellow stakes that could be eyes appeared, appearing as an imposing force behind the 2 in the front. Izuku then stepped up to the scared gang. Greetings, we are the League of Villains. While we would come with at a more opportune time, you have something that belonged to us. That shipment of trigger was meant to be ours, but it seems that some of your ruffians stole it from us. If you could kindly return what you stole, we could end this without bloodshed. As Izuku talked through the modified voice box to sound less like kid and more intimidating. They had the name idea from Tenko, ironically. When he was over, he watched the boy play this game called League of Legends. For some reason it lasted longer than most gaming franchises before the era of quirks, and its only competition was Minecraft for the longest lasting game ever. It took a few moments for the gang to understand, then they all laughed maniacally. These fools waltz into their domain and think they could just demand they give them their stolen supplies for free. What idiots. Ha! Kid, you're hilarious. You think you can just come in here and not get killed? What are you gonna do? Kabuto said, still laughing. Oh, I'm gonna be doing much, Nomu will. Izuku said, then he snapped his fingers. In a blink the creature called Nomu was gone from his stop. Then a loud smash was heard. The gang turned their heads to see a horrific sight. One of the members in a paste on the floor, dead, with the Nomu's fist covered in blood. Most of the Eastern dragons were scared shitless. All but a few who were enraged by this attack. One of which was a hippo heteromorph who charged Nomu head-on. You will pay for that. He yelled as he punched the Nomu straight in the face. He was shocked when the Nomu didn't budge an inch. Nomu then proceeds to slap away the Hippo Man, sending him into dozens of crates. The Hippo Man was surprisingly resilient, mostly due to the fat he gained from his quirk, and gets up, though he did feel the attack. Both Nomu and the Hippo get into a tussle, charging each other, but Nomu was just stronger in general and pushed the man into the far back of the warehouse to continue their brawl, with several other members joining them. While this was happening, the other gang members charge Izuku and Kuroji. Kabuto activate his quirk, turning his arm into a metallic claw and aiming it at Izuku. Claw Cannon, transformation type. The user turns their arm into a giant cannon that shoots high-power water beams, though the firing and recharge time take about 10 seconds. Izuku thinks as he recalls the notes that Sensei provided about the gang beforehand. Kuroji, scatter. He commanded as Kuroji nodded and expanded his dark clouds, catching many of the gang members, Kabuto included, scattering them around the maze-like warehouse. As Kuroji and Izuku stand with the majority of the gang, Kuroji talks through the mist. Mai apologizes, but when the master wants something, he will get it. Then Kuroji opens another portal. Another silhouette comes through. It had an exposed brain like Nomu before, but unlike him, this one had pale white skin and was smaller, almost Izuku's height, but just a tad bigger. It was less bulky than the Nomu before it, though it still had muscles. It had a film camera for a head with a bottom jaw attached to it. It had 4 wire-like tendrils coming off his head and the lens glowed a crimson red. This monster and Izuku then rushed the remaining gang members as they roared into battle. Time to prove myself. 2 of the gang members that were driving the cargo truck are now hiding behind some of the boxes. They look around, seeing fire and explosions, mostly from the members attacking the Nomu. They sit back, hearts beating out of their chests. This wasn't what they signed up for, to be slaughtered by a monster. They hear a loud scream near them. They were being picked off one by one. Fuck this is insane. Kenji said, having a small panic attack. Toro then comes over and slaps his face. Get a hold of yourself, man, we need to get out of here. Hey guys. I have a way out. A voice can be heard. They look to see Jonjo waving to them. The 2 men then rush over to him. As they do, a knife appears in Jonjo's hand as he slashes open Kenji's neck, making him bleed out. Toro is shocked by this. Before he could call Jonjo a traitor, he sees blood behind him. Then the face of a very dead Jonjo stares back at him, with his neck being cut thoroughly open. As he processes this, Jonjo starts to melt, revealing Toga underneath. Sorry, I have a job to do as the League's cutest assassin. Time to make you cuter as well, she said, smiling with her Cheshire grin. Toro tries to flee, but Toga was too quick, pouncing on the man and driving her knife into his back. He tries to scream, but Toga covers his mouth with a bloody hand. Shoo, don't scream, she said with a sinister giggle. I'm going to make you cute too, once you're all covered in such yummy blood. She then proceeded to stab the man multiple times, his screams being drowned out by the battles within the warehouse. Kabuto and his men are dropped onto the other side of the warehouse. He was furious that a little brat was destroying everything. He finds the little shit, he will have his claw up his ass. As he was thinking this, a long tongue then was seen grabbing one of his men. It violently pulled the man away into the darkness. As they heard the man scream, it was abruptly silenced by a loud crunch. They watched in horror as another one of those things, those Nomu, walked into the light. It had its brain exposed like all the rest, with pale yellow skin. The difference was that its face was that of a skin-wrapped skull, as its unnerving smile and sunken white eyes. It was lanky, almost malnourished, with long arms and sharp claws. The Nomu then opened its mouth, enlarging it to 4 times the normal limit and shooting out its tongue, which had 3 spike-like protrusions. It grabbed another man and reeled them back in, slamming its jaws together faster than a bullet on top of the man's head, completely decapitating him in seconds. Kabuto readied his cannon towards the beast, rallying his men to fight it. Come on, kill it. His men gained the courage through his words and charged the monstrosity. The Jaw Nomu rushed them, grabbing one of the men's heads and crushing it within its hands, throwing it to the other men. Kabuto then fired his cannon, to which hit the Nomu dead-on, sending it away into the darkness. "Eat that, motherfucker!" Kabuto grinned, thinking he just killed the thing. But he soon panicked when he saw it crawling back through the darkness on all fours, like a deranged animal, and whipping its tongue around at a fast rate, decapitating multiple men with one swing. Kabuto watched as his men were brutally killed by the thing. He then took the opportunity to run away, while his men distracted the monstrosity by being its next chew toys, leaving them for dead. Kurogiri, Izuku, and the lens Nomu continued to fight in the main entrance. They were working together, using Kurogiri's portals as cover and effective means to attack. One of the goons tried to use his claws to stab Izuku, when Kurogiri uses one of his portal to redirect the attack into another goon's gut. Izuku then took the opportunity and slit the previous attacker's throat while he was distracted. The lens Nomu was fighting multiple enemies, using its enhanced strength to take on the goons in front of it, while using the combination of the focus, Quirk, to target the goons and laser eye, Quirk, to then let out a laser blast that incinerated the goons in a single strike. Izuku knew the Nomu was really good for long-range attacks rather than hand-to-hand, so he came up with a plan, seeing a high point on the battlefield. "Kurogiri!" yelled Izuku, pointing at the large container pile. "Send Nomu to a vantage point." Kurogiri saw where Izuku was pointing and nodded, opening a portal for the Nomu to go in. The Nomu had a much easier time targeting the minions now and rained hell upon the swarm of goons, firing laser blasts in quick succession, burning holes through their bodies. Izuku was in the pile, slicing arms and legs with his combat knife, making the goons fall, easy to kill in a fatal threat. He only had 6 shots with his revolver. He needed to make them count. As he was fighting, he then barely dodged a bullet aim for his head. He then looked at the goon with a rifle in hand. Another blast came from a man hidden in the shelves, shooting lightning down at him. Izuku ran for cover, ducking under some fire whips, and hid behind one of the many storage containers littering the area. Shots of bullets, lighting, and fire destroyed his cover bit by bit. Quickly thinking how to deal with this, Kurogiri came up from behind. "Are you all right, Master Shigaraki?" he said, concerned for Izuku as he almost died. "I'm good, trying to find a way to get these assholes. They have the range, and Nomu is taking care of the other goons near itself first. If only there was a way to hit him." He then looked at Kurogiri, an idea forming in his head, and smiled. "Actually, you came at a good time. Here's the plan." As the rifleman aimed another shot at the last place the interloper hid behind, a black portal appeared from behind and a bullet flew out and hit the man in the back of the head, killing him instantly. Another portal opened behind the electricity user and shot him too, his eyeball being blasted out from his skull. The fire whip user sees this and dodges the last bullet from behind him, only to get stabbed in the gut by Toga, who arrived on scene. "No one. My Izuku-in," she said with no smile on her face. With a quick slice to the throat, the man dies. She then rushes into more of the goons, cutting and slicing while the beams of energy rain down on them. Izuku and Kurogiri rush out of their hiding spot, before being faced with a man with metal knuckles in front of them. Izuku remembers that this person was Tetsugami, having steel bones. He smiles. He needed a challenge. "Kurogiri, help Toga and the Nomu. I can take this one," he said. Kurogiri wasn't so sure but nodded and teleported to aid his comrades. Izuku then squares off against Tetsugami. "You sure have a death wish, kid," he said. "Your little knives and bullets won't do shit to me." Izuku smiles underneath his mask, his green eyes glow with a menacing aura. "Of course, nothing in this world is easy. But I need the challenge in order to truly succeed in my goals. You're just a stepping stone, sorry." This angers Tetsugami as he charges, with Izuku getting into a pose to counterattack. The Black Nomu is still continuing to fight Hippo, slamming another dark fist into the abdomen of the man. The heteromorphic man is having trouble dealing any damage to Nomu, even with some support from his comrades. It's like nothing can hurt it. Though he had some relief as his body fat from his quirk was soaking the devastating punches the creature creates. It was like it was as strong as All Might. Both of the behemoths charge each other once again, getting into a wrestling match, holding both of their hands together to push each other around. This was where Hippo finally got the advantage over the Nomu due to his heavier mass, as he was pushing it into all the shelves, walls, crates, anything to try and put some damage onto it. Seeing that nothing was working, he then desperately lifts up the creature above his head and drops it into the concrete below, slamming the creature down headfirst. That finally did something to the Nomu as he could hear it groan. He tries to lift up the Nomu again, but the Nomu punches his arm, breaking it and knocking him away. As he tries to get up, the Nomu crashes into him and started opening his mouth. He was very confused on what this mindless beast was doing, until the Nomu continued opening his mouth, far past the point his mouth could go. Panicking, he tried pushing the Nomu away with his good arm and leg, even going against the force of the Nomu by trying to close his jaws. But against Nomu's pure strength, it wasn't enough as the beast broke the man's jaw like King Kong against the T-Rex, killing the man. The beast roars in triumph, with the other gang members watching in horror as their best counter to the abomination was just killed. Nomu then turns around to face them, its permanent smile taking on a more sinister grin, as it roars and charges the other members, ready for more bloodshed. Izuku dodges the overhead punch from Tetsugami, slicing at the exposed side of the man. The blade only made a small cut, which made Tetsugami grin in satisfaction. What? That's it? No, Izuku said. Just testing something. The battle continued. Izuku dodging and weaving under Tetsugami's predictable strikes. It confirmed one thing to Izuku: his quirk makes his attacks more potent, as he then slams his fist into the ground, cracking it. But it came at a cost: speed. Izuku keeps on slashing, making minor cuts all around Tetsugami, who didn't feel a thing. Izuku then sliced his knee, and noticed how Tetsugami flinched. Perfect, a weak spot. Izuku backed, allowing Tetsugami to charge him, only for Izuku to pull out his revolver and shoot his knee. The bullet struck, entering the knee. Tetsugami fell down in pain, holding on to his injured knee. Izuku then kicked the man in the head with his iron saws, knocking him out. This man was useful, he'll be needed alive. As he turns around, he sees Kabuto's claw cannon was directing aimed at his head, with the sound of the cannon charging up being heard. You ruined everything. My business, my wealth, even my workers. So I'll be taking your head as we both go down to hell. The man says it's a malicious grin. As he tries to fire, a long tongue grabs a hold of the cannon and pulls it away to the last minute. Kabuto looks in horror at the jaw Nomu, covered in the blood of his comrades, holding onto his arm with its tongue. Well, seems you lost your goons, your trigger. Izuku then snaps his fingers. Suddenly a beam of energy slices the cannon arm off Kabuto, making him scream in agony. And your arm. Kabuto looks and sees most of his men dead, bodies lining the ground and shelves, with blood covering the entire warehouse. He then looks at the assailants in front of him. Kurogiri coming in with Toga and the black Nomu from the back. The lens Nomu coming down from its perch, readying another strike, as its eye glows a crimson red. The jaw Nomu slowly crawling towards its prey, its gleeful grin plastered on its face. Finally Izuku stand at the center, taking in his new team of villains. And now you'll lose your life. Nomu. The jaw Nomu crawls up to the man's face. It looked like it was grinning even more ferociously, even though it was physically impossible. The Nomu's mouth extends as Kabuto screams in horror. Then it was silence with a crunch. Izuku, now off of the high of adrenaline, slumped down onto the ground. This was his first real mission and he felt that he completed it. Toga was squealing, taking as much blood as possible, while Kurogiri sent the 2 extra Nomu back to the factory. Are you all right, Master Shigaraki? Kurogiri said, concerned for the boy as he sat there. This was definitely a step up compared to what you're used to. I'm fine, Kurogiri, never better. I completed my first real mission from Sensei. I just need a minute to catch my breath from all the fighting. He replied as Kurogiri nodded, thankful that the young master was taking it all in better than he thought. The months spent with the young boy has formed a more parental bond that Kurogiri was not willing to admit. Even with Toga, who moved in about a couple of weeks ago, when Toga was evicted from her previous place of residence in Kyushu. Izuku looked at the black Nomu that was currently with them. He was a gift from Sensei for his idea with a new type of trigger. This was the exact reason for them needing trigger in the first place. It was specifically to enhance the Nomu further than they could be. He was gifted Nomu to take care of and use as his pleasure, like a pet. He had grown attached to the thing, mostly because it was an all-might killing weapon. Though, through this trial run he did see some issues, mostly in the weight department. While shock absorption and super regeneration were fine quirks, they didn't do anything for if All Might could push them beyond their limits. He has seen plenty of footage of the man. Even if Sensei says that All Might is weaker, he wouldn't take that chance. He wants Nomu to be beyond what All Might can do, not on an even playing field. He then looks at Tetsugami. He was unconscious on the floor. His quirk could be useful for Nomu. Izuku thinks with delight, hoping the doctor would love it just as much as he. He then looks towards his companions. Alright, let's get this trigger back home before any of the heroes come snooping around. We don't want to put our name out to the public just yet. The police arrived on scene an hour later. Most of the drugs were collected, with a lot of the now dead Eastern Dragons gang's trigger being absent. News stations reported a violent showdown within the upper regions of Tokyo with no idea who the assailants were that killed the entirety of the Eastern Dragons in one night. Same night, somewhere else. All for One smiled at the screen in front of him. Due to the Nomu having a camera for a head, he could use his quirk, I Spy, to watch his young protege. He only had control of the black Nomu for a short amount of time, and in that time had learned how to command it with simple yet effective commands. The other two Nomu were just set dressing. He didn't need them, but allowing him to command multiple of them at once was something that the young Shigaraki needed in order to become the symbol of fear. What really impressed the older man was Izuku's leadership skills. He only had two other competent members of the league, and he truly made the best out of the two. He loved watching Izuku use his smarts and brain with Kurogiri's portals and the young girl, Toga, right? And her infiltration techniques to his advantage. Before their enemy knew what was coming, he had already decimated the enemy's forces. It was something All for One would have done. He couldn't be more proud. When he gave Izuku this mission, it was mostly a test to see how far the young boy has grown. Through his training with Kurogiri, to the hunts with Toga through the streets of Kyushu. All brought forth with loyal minions at his command. Yes, he was a fine young boy indeed. Even if the League of Villains name was a little tacky, knowing the boy, he would think of a better one later. It was time. All for One knew it. His young protege was truly coming into his own, and with that he was ready. Using his technopathy quirk, he calls Dr. Garaki from his lab. After 2 rings, he answers. Greetings, Master. Do what I owe the pleasure. Dr. Garaki said. How is the experiments going with the Neo trigger? He asked. This was something Izuku thought of and he enjoyed it. The doctor loved the idea too. Having trigger that could put the Nomus into a sort of faux awakening in their quirks could improve upon the process of Nomu creation exponentially. It is going slow, but the tests I've been running are seeing promise. I just need more trigger in order to work with. It could take about 8 months or so to get a prototype of the Neo trigger stabilized. Perfectly fine, Doctor. Take your time. You work best when we have nothing to fear. I thank you, my lord. I won't fail. I know you won't. He then pauses for a good while, letting himself breathe. Doctor, I think Izuku is ready. Oh, are you sure, Master? It's only been a few months. Will he be able to handle it? Dr. Garaki asked. The procedure for this was different than what All for One usually does, as this particular quirk was relentless, needing a strong body and will in order to handle it. Are you doubting my judgment, Doctor? No, Master. I would never question you. I just want the boy to be prepared. It just seems a little early is all. Garaki says, trying appease to the demon lord as best as possible. No, you are correct in that front, Doctor. It does seem early for the boy. But this procedure could take up to 6 months before he would be completed. I have seen the boy grow, and he is growing much faster than I could ever imagine. Did you know he actually knocked Kurogiri down the other day? And that was with Kurogiri using his quirk. The boy's analytical mind is beyond what it was before I found him. It would be wise for him to grow attached to his quirk before he makes his public debut. I understand, my lord. Forgive me, I just don't want to waste such a smart individual. I too have grown attached to the boy. He may not come often, but his advice for adding quirks to our Nomu have given me new ideas. Just today Kurogiri sent me a man with a metal bones quirk to add to our all-might killer. Garaki smiled and laughed. He said that the young boy sent him to me as the Nomu was pushed back even though his strength rivals All Might. I believe it could add more weight and strength to push beyond All Might. I would be awful for the young boy to die during the procedure. All for One nodded. Yes, I understand. But that's the point. He needs to be properly bonded before then, have the preparations ready in about a week's time. That should be enough time for the boy to be prepped and ready. All for One grins manically. The quirk he was giving Izuku would be one of the doctor's best work yet, more so than Kurogiri's quirk. It was designed to harbor the hate within Izuku, allow the boy to see nothing but destruction, just like he intended. It was more technical than All for One would have liked, but in Izuku's hands, he could wield it to the fullest. No, Izuku wasn't a right name anymore. He had a much better one. One that truly embodied to New Boy Reborn. Come Fushoku Shigaraki, it is time to show the world how truly fragile it really is. 1 week later, Izuku didn't know what to expect from his Saturday morning. It was 8 o'clock, he barely got sleep from last night's training and hunting. They came late that night as they went to get some nice clothing after a successful kill in Narahata. They arrived back at the bar at around 3 in the morning, and went to bed after getting scolded by Kurogiri for staying out so late. Laying in bed, he turned to his left. There, Toga slept peacefully right next to him, cuddling up to him. She has been doing this ever since she moved in with Izuku and Kurogiri. She has her own room, she just comes into Izuku's whenever she wants. Izuku really couldn't tell her otherwise, she always was good at pushing his buttons. Izuku's cheeks turned red when he realized that she was still holding on to him. She was sleeping, having a cutely peaceful face. Wait, cute, he thought as he slowly tried to pry his arm from the girl's grasp. Unfortunately, she moved in her sleep and held on to him tighter. Damn it, he was stuck. He sighed, this was going to be hard for him. Toga. Hey, Toga. I need to get up, he said, just loud enough for her to hear while also being quiet. It was still the middle of the morning after all. Toga stirs as she moves her body around, her eyes open for a moment, before shutting, and he burrows herself further into Izuku. No, too early. Izuku softly chuckled. This was normal behavior for Toga. She was usually a night owl, and definitely not a morning person. He was though, as he needed to get up to eat earlier than most, as his parents never actually made breakfast for him, only Izumi. He would make breakfast, brush his teeth, freshen up and be ready to go to school. His mother or father even came downstairs. Toga, come on. I need to get up. Please, Izuku said, pleading for the young girl to release her grip on him. She lifted her head, half opening one of her eyes towards Izuku's bright emeralds, with a mischievous grin on her face. Only when you start calling me Himiko, Aizen. We've talked about this. Izuku was just waking up and he already had his face turn red. This was an interesting start to his morning. She did talk about saying her given name instead of her family name. She said it was only fair since she calls him by a nickname of his given name. He reluctantly relents to this. Fine. Himiko, can you please let me go so I can get up? Satisfied, though not happy about it as she just got comfortable, Himiko begrudgingly loosened her grip on the young boy as he made his way up and to the door. She promptly fell back to sleep right after the door closed. As Izuku made his way downstairs, he sees Kurogiri making breakfast. While the bar was set up for mostly drinks, it did have a stove, fridge, and other amenities for a kitchen right behind the shelf of alcohol. Sadly, Nomu wasn't in his usual corner. The doctor took him after the raid to work on him more so he wasn't ready as of yet. It was fine, but he did miss the big monster. He was a mindless monster that just stood there while you rambled on. A good listener it was, even though it probably didn't understand anything he was saying. Izuku, took his spot onto one of the stool right next to the counter. "Good morning, Kurojiri." Kurojiri turns around to see Izuku at the counter. "Good morning, Master Shigaraki. Breakfast is almost ready." Izuku nods as he pulls out his phone to pass the time. He scrolls through the usual hero news: Mirko jumping the rankings, Endeavor saving people from a burning building, Lady Magenta being seen more often the last few months. That one made him clench his teeth. Knowing his mother only now thought about his safety after he left, she was just another thing wrong in this backwater society. As Kurojiri passes him breakfast, he continues to scroll while eating. Something interesting catches his eye. A new report of the Eastern Dragons being destroyed overnight, with no one knowing what had happened to them. That was nice to see. Seeing the newly made league's efforts be on the news was an accomplishment all on its own. The fact that heroes such as Ingenium and Ryukyu were on the scene made it even better for the publicity. Once the league announces itself to the world, they will know that they weren't to be trifled with. As he was thinking this, Toga Himiko, he was still not used to it, finally walked downstairs. She slumped her way onto one of the stools, her heading laying on the counter. She was definitely still sleepy. "Good morning, Miss Toga," Kurojiri said, watching the young girl as she sat down. "Morning, Kurojiri-san. Can I have breakfast?" Toga asked. "You can, once you get your head off my counter," Kurojiri replied, causing Himiko to grumpily lift her head. She went to lean on her arm instead. Kurojiri sighed, then passed a plate with breakfast. "What am I doing for training today, Kurojiri?" Izuku asked, as the bartender looked at him with uncertainty. "There won't be any training today, young Master Shigaraki. Sensei had called for you today after breakfast. He said it was important." Izuku was confused by this. Himiko, starting to wake up, was also confused. Sensei hasn't needed him for a while. Ever since the league started officially forming, he was sent out less and less on his scouting missions. The only time he was out of the bar or the training warehouse was with Himiko during her hunts. That was the most likely solution. But what definitely confused was that Sensei stopped training for this. It must have been important. The screen behind them then turned on, the purple light and the audio-only text appearing. "Yes, Izuku. I am in need of you today. When you are done, Kurojiri will be opening a warp gate to the lab," Sensei said, his voice still making Himiko uncomfortable. Izuku and Kurojiri were used to it by now. "What do you need me for, Sensei? Is it another scouting mission?" "Oh no, my boy. I believe after your success with the Eastern Dragons, you deserve a reward." All for one said, emphasizing the reward aspect. Izuku took a second to think for a moment, then his eye went wide. His mouth opened up as he stared at the purple screen. "Wait, is it? Caught on, my boy. Yes, it is time to get your quirk. I have had the doctor make it just for you. Though I will say you won't be at the bar for quite some time, so say anything to your members before we put you under." "How long will it take?" It wasn't Izuku that said this but Himiko, as she eyed the screen with suspicion. "The procedure should only take a few months." "A few months?" both of the young children said. That was a long time out of action. Even Kurojiri's eyes widened. "I thought giving a quirk was as simple as placing your hand on me?" Izuku asked. He didn't know the specifics of his sensei's quirk, he only saw it once. "Yes, but the quirk we created is a little more relentless. The quirk needs a specific person with a will to control it. That's why it will take a while for it to bind to you." That scared Izuku a little. A quirk that was so dangerous that even Sensei wouldn't touch it. That was unnerving. But if Sensei was thinking Izuku could handle it, then surely he can do it. Izuku looked over to Himiko. She looked worried. He couldn't blame her. There was a dangerous quirk that will be inserted into him and he will be gone for months. He knows that she is clingy towards him, being the first person to truly care for her regardless of her quirk. He respected her as an individual and a friend. He then turned towards Kurojiri. It was hard to tell his emotions due to the smoke that covers his face, though Izuku had spent enough time with him to tell he was also uncertain about this decision. Kurojiri was as close to a parental figure in Izuku's life as possible. He was even more than his own parents, but that ain't a hard bar to reach. Kurojiri has been with him since the start of this journey and has been protective of the boy's well-being ever since. Izuku looked down at himself, contemplating leaving his newfound family, even if it's only for a while. He then looks at the screen once again. How long till everything is ready? Izuku asks. The doctor has everything prepped and ready. Take all the time you need. Izuku breathed in, then gave his answer, give me about 10 minutes. I need to tell them what they're going to be doing while I'm gone. Excellent. Again, take your time. Things like these don't need to be rushed into. The screen then turns off, ending the conversation. Izuku turns to his compatriots, both looking unsure about his decision. To Himiko was the first to say something. Izuku-san, are you sure about this? She asked the question everyone was thinking. Izuku looked into her eyes. The cat-like irises were no longer there as they look a more rounded shape, to more of a human. This has never happened the entire time Izuku has been with Himiko, so he knew she was dreading him leaving her, even if it was permanent. I understand you don't want me to go Toga, Himiko. Himiko. But if I get this power, I can make our dreams come true. A world without the corruption, a world for us to finally be happy. Himiko is still unsure, but she understands Izuku's point. She always told Izuku that she wants to live in a world where she can be herself, happy, and Izuku provided that type of world. I'm just worried that when you come back, you won't be the same, or you go back on our promise or dash. Izuku cuts her off by holding her hand, looking her dead in the eyes. Himiko, I won't turn my back on you. You are one of my only friends, and I am so thankful for that. I will return and make our dreams to reality. Flashback. Toga and Izuku were sitting on the edge of a rooftop above the alleyway, eyeing the criminal scum below. It was just a week after the death of Principal Alpoleps, and Toga had taken Izuku out on hunts to satiate the bloodthirst she had. While Izuku does give her some of his blood to her, most of the time she needs more than what Izuku can provide. Izuku was watching with intent and an analytical mind, while Toga looks with a more predatory grin, eyeing new prey. As they are watching, Izuku thinks back to his first time in one of these alleyways, his almost death, and how he met Sensei. I got him to wonder why Toga was even here to begin with. Hey Toga, I have a question. Izuku asks. Toga takes her eyes off of the criminals down below to put her full attention on Izuku. What is it, Izuku-kun? Toga replied, grinning wildly. I've told you my reasonings for being a villain, but I've never heard you speak your mind on it. For a moment, it felt like everything stood still. Toga's eyes widened, her grin slightly dropping. Why, you don't have to tell me if you don't want to, I just dash. No, you asked. It's only fair. Toga looked ahead of herself, taking a deep breath. Home life before wasn't the best. Being treated as a monster for something you were born with was a reason I repressed myself for many years. When I finally tasted blood after so long, I realized that I shouldn't be trying to fit in, I should be myself. I don't have such a noble reason to tear down hero society as you, but... She then looks at Izuku, her smile returning. I want to make the world into a place where I can be happy. Simple as that. Izuku stares into her gleaming golden eyes, taking in her words. He then smiles. Well, I guess our goal align. I want to destroy the corrupt system so people like me won't suffer, so I'll help create that world that will make you happy. For the first time, Izuku felt like a hero. Someone who can save people from the worst parts of the world. And if he needs to be a hero for the villains, then his old dream would come to reality after all. End of flashback. Himiko is almost in tears, and she brings herself to bring out a truly genuine smile, none of the predatory nature, just happy. Kurojiri watches this unfolds. He is happy and a bit sad that the young master was growing up this quickly. Sure, there were bumps along the road, but the emotional maturity should not be this present in a boy his age. It's a sad tale of how life has treated them. Izuku then turns to Kurojiri, as the bartender puts down the glass and sighs. I cannot stop you from taking this opportunity, I just want you to know that we will be here when you return. Izuku nods, understanding Kurojiri completely. The league will not shatter just because he is leaving. Otherwise, what was the point of forming in the first place? As Izuku says his goodbyes to both of them, including a hug from Himiko, He enters the portal Kurogyri made. Izuku steps through the portal to the underground science lab. The glowing purple lights were the only things that illuminated the dark laboratory. The walls were filled with jars, labeled with various quirks. To the right, row and rows of Nomu were being engineered and stored. He had only been here a couple times, and the sight of the Nomu storage still haunts his dreams. In front of him, Sensei and Dr. Garaki stood on each side of an operating table. They were in the middle of a conversation before Izuku appeared, gaining the two men's attention. "Ah, Izuku. You've came at just the right time," Sensei said, as he places a hand on top of the operating table. "Come, we can begin in a short moment." Izuku slowly walks towards the table, inspecting it with weary eyes. The table was cleaned thoroughly, no dust, blood, or even rust. I seemed brand new. He looked over to the medical equipment. Surgical tools, and foredrip, and some chemicals on a moving shelf that he kinda doesn't want to know what they do. Then he eyes the jar in the middle. It was connected to the top of a weird machine, with glowing purple lines all throughout, making it look like something from the far future. The jar cylindrical, big enough to fit a cat inside. Inside the jar, however, was a black and red substance. It moved unnatural for something that was just liquid, like it was alive. The label on the side told him what it was: corrosion. Just from the name he could tell what it could do. This was meant to be his quirk. As he eyed the substance a little more, getting closer to the operating table, and in return, getting close to it, it suddenly stopped moving. He could feel a presence that wasn't either the doctor, Sensei, or his own. His eyes widened, as he hadn't felt true fear since the sludge villain, or Sensei's first appearance. And yet there was intrigue, like he wanted to get closer to it, like it was calling out to him. Whether or not this made the anticipation for the procedure better, he didn't know. Sensei watched this interaction intensely. His mouth contorted into a menacing smile. "Yes, they are starting to understand each other, let us continue. Izuku, please lay down." Izuku looks at his sensei, then nods, complying and laying on his back. He stares up at the blinding hospital light. The operating table was definitely not comfortable at all, but what was he expecting? "Now, I'm going to put you under first. This process is going to take time, and you're going to need to be asleep for most of it. You will only wake up once the procedure is finished. You might get nightmares due to being in such a state for a long time. Your brain needs stimulation, so dreams and hallucinations are going to be prevalent in this procedure. If anything happens inside your brain, remember that it is all an illusion conjured up by boredom." Dr. Garaki said as he prepped the syringe needed to knock the young boy out. Izuku looks at the doctor with a confused look. Nightmares? Hallucinations? What had he gotten himself into? Well, too late to turn back now. He silently nods his head, getting as comfortable as possible. Dr. Garaki nods as well as he injects the syringe into the young boy's arm. Izuku feels the effects instantly as the world around starts to spin. His eyes grow tired and his vision becomes blurry. His body becomes numb, unable to move. Before he goes under, Sensei speaks some final words to Izuku. "When you awake, you will not be Izuku anymore. You will be something new, something greater. Fushoku Shigaraki, until we meet again." And with those final words, his mind plunges into the darkness. For the longest time, Izuku saw only black. Sure, there were voices from time to time, but they were so distorted it sounded like they were from far away. He couldn't feel anything, probably anesthetics to make the procedure run smoothly. He had to give the doctor's description of the feeling some credit, it was extremely boring. He had been counting within his mind. Usually dream only last for about 2 minutes, but this darkness lasted for mostly an hour. He had to think his brain was uncreative for the amount of darkness. Then all of a sudden he felt a tingling sensation throughout his body. At first it felt like static shock that continuously hit the skin, then the pain truly set in. It felt like his skin was on fire. Like something was crawling through it, eating its way through. He tried to scream but couldn't move. He tried to open his eyes but they stayed shut. He just needed to endure it. Then the darkness around him started to melt. As liquid started to form its surroundings. The pain started to lessen as he sees more of the environment. The dark puddles form into walls and doors, furniture, pictures, memories. He then saw something he thought he left. His old house. All for One and Dr. Garaki were monitoring Izuku from outside. The boy was put into a stasis tank, similar to the Nomu, in order to have a stable environment to adapt to the wild Quirk. So, Doctor, how is the boy doing? All things look stable, my lord. The Quirk just started to enter his system. It shouldn't take any more than another 2 months. Dr. Garaki said. They have been performing this operation for the past 4 months. They actually inserted the Quirk around 2 months ago. It only now started to take effect. They wanted his body to be in peak condition before the Quirk had even touched Izuku. But the boy's body should be taking it well, yes. Correct, my lord. I was able to give the Quirk a genetic sample of the young boy's DNA to grow accustomed to in order to help steady the process of merging. His highly adaptable body should take the Quirk a lot better than any other person on the planet. Perfect. All for One steps a little closer to the tank, admiring Izuku's sleeping form. Wires and tubes littered the boy's body in order for him to breathe and gain nutrients. He was barely clothed, a simple black t-shirt and pants, waterproof of course. The boy's eyes looked tired then peaceful, meaning he was going through something. To that, All for One had no idea. My lord, I have to wonder why you asked me to add some of your own DNA to the Quirk. You see, my friend, I am looking at the future. When my heir is ready to receive my Quirk, it will be a lot easier due to the Quirk not seeing it as a foreign entity. It would also make the boy more stable to more Quirks being added into him. The doctor had to admit that it was a genius move. Corrosion, by definition, was completely destructive. It swallowed up anything in sight, which also meant viruses as well, something completely unintentional. He also had to admit that Corrosion was one of his most deadly works of art. It almost had a mind of its own, almost. If they didn't add any of his master's DNA, Corrosion would have seen it as an attack on its host and attacked it fiercely, making their ultimate plan borderline useless. This was a necessity. But there is another reason. Dr. Garaki looked at his master with confusion. My Quirk fuels my lust for collecting. It's within my nature, my reason for living. I expect Corrosion would adapt some of this, but change it to fit its hatred, destruction, death. All of these things would no doubt affect the young boy's mind, making it much easier for me to guide down his path. I have seen his heart. It burns just as bright as my late brother's. I can tell a hero's heart when I see one, and it is the only flaw I see within the boy. He is working for our cause, but I need an insurance that he stays within. All for One and Dr. Garaki both stare at the purple glowing tank once more. I will not make same mistake again. Izuku stares out to the hallway of the house he left for good. He looked at the pictures on the walls. Pictures of Inko, Izumi, surprisingly Izuku and Hisashi. Why were these here? They were taken down when his dad died. He slowly walked through the hallway. Why was his brain showing him this? He thought he didn't want to be reminded of this place. Was it the Quirk? Is it showing him this? He want answers to the questions. He came upon his room, his old cage he called a room. He opened the door to find it surprisingly colorful. The walls were painted a sky blue, filled to the brim with all Might merchandise. Disgusting. He then visited his own bathroom. It was different than the last time he was here. It was almost older than the previous one, still in the middle of renovations. Izuku looked into the mirror and frowned. His green hair was long, almost making it to his eyes. He hasn't had the time to get a haircut, not when he is a villain after all. The long scar that came across the right side face, making him look like a train wreck. Some of his freckles were also gone due to the scar tissue covering them. He had a small slicing scar under his left eye that was from his first encounter with Toga. He looked like a totally different person from the. As he made it to the staircase he slowly headed, he could hear people outside. As he took his final steps, he realized what this memory was from. As he sees his father, his real father, Hisashi Midoriya, sitting at the dining table. The front door opens and Izuku sees a miniature version of him running through, followed by his sister, then mother. Dad, Dad. The two children yelled as they came to give their father a group hug. Hello, little munchkins, how was school today? He hadn't heard that voice in forever, it almost felt alien to him. Their father had the loving smile that you would expect from a father. His face radiated with comfort and heat. The two children talked about their day as his wife came up to kiss him on the forehead as she went to the kitchen. Izuku watched on fondly, his face forming a small smile. He watched as his father used his fire breath to entertain the two children, making small sparks that looks like fireworks. The two children had stars in their eyes from the display. Inko didn't find it funny and scolded the man who proceeded to laugh nervously at he yelling. Izuku remembered this. It was a time where he could remember being truly happy, like he was truly a part of the family. He then watched somberly. It never lasted. The ground and walls then came black sludge again. The memory version of his family also became sludge as the scene shifted. Izuku almost fell back before things returned to normal. It was the same house, but now it was dark instead. The only source of light was from the TV, where two young Izuku and Izumi watched in horror. Izuku walked around to see what they were watching. The TV broadcast was talking about the destruction of Mizudafu General Hospital. The hero Lady Magneta and some others were on scene. Sadly, the destruction had killed many civilians caught in the crossfire. They listed the names of the confirmed dead, and Hisashi's name came up. Izuku watched as the two children cried to themselves. Izuku almost cried too watching this. It was a memory that had long haunted him, how his family was forever torn after this event. The sludge returned shift the house around. When everything stabilizes again, he notices the pictures. There were no more pictures of Hisashi on the wall, other than the one on the display near the door, next to his grandmother, Nana. They were replaced mostly with pictures of Toshinori. He was still in some of them, however few there were on the wall. The scene paralleled the first as Toshinori was there, sitting in the same spot as his father before. Rage filled Izuku's mind. Just seeing the man in front of him, the man that ruined his family, made Izuku want to kill him now while he had the chance. But he had to remember this was just a memory. He did notice that Toshinori still had the whites in his eyes, something he didn't have after the surgery he had 5 years ago. As the voices outside came in, he sees Izumi and his mother step in first. Izumi was happier than she usually was, and his mother had that calm smile. The last one in was Izuku, looking heartbroken. Oh no, not today. Izuku thought as this was the day. The day they got their quirks. Or at least, Izumi got her quirk. Dad, I got my quirk. Izumi said, cheery as always. Really? That's great, sweetie. What is it? Toshinori said, picking her up in his arms. It's telekinesis, yeah, that. Toshinori spinned Izumi around in the air, making the child laugh the entire time. That's great, sweetie, you can be a great hero. Toshinori then turned to Izuku, but the boy was not looking at him, he was looking down at the ground, staring off into the ether. Toshinori looked at Inko with confusion. Inko, what's going on with Izuku? Is he all right? Inko stiffened, looking at Toshinori worryingly, then said, physically he's fine. The doctor told us that he's quirkless. Toshinori's eyes widened, then looked at Izuku with a pitying face. Oh, I see. That's not what I wanted to hear. Both Izuku's thought. The real one hated the look Toshinori gave. He's pitying me. You don't have the right to pity me. You've never been me. The environment shifts slightly, the pictures on the wall change. Pictures of Inko, Toshinori, and Izumi having fun. There wasn't even a single one of him. Suddenly the floor opens up underneath Izuku, as he falls into a sludge tunnel. When he finally lands, the light from the outside blinds him for a bit. He sees his old playground, the small swing set, the steel slide that got too hot during the summers, the sand pit. Nostalgia hit Izuku in the worst type of way, as he sees himself being beaten into the ground by Izumi, Bakugo, and their other lackeys. You think you can be a hero without a quirk, huh, Deku? Bakugo said, continuously blasting him. Yeah, right, like a quirkless Deku can ever be anything but a punching bag, said Izumi as she uses her quirk to chuck stones at Izuku. Stop, please. Stop. Izuku said, crying on the ground, constantly being pelted. The real Izuku hated watching this, hated watching himself be hurt for no reason. He runs forward, trying to swat the brats away. Only for the sludge to return, the memory forms of the bullies become the black sludge again. However, instead of becoming another memory, they form into a monster. The creature was as tall as the houses. A long, slender body, almost worm-like. The head was covered with tendrils that sprouted out from the creature's sludge body. The creature had a maw of teeth, almost like hardened acid, golden in color. Finally, inside the maw was a single large red eye. The creature roared, soaring down on Izuku, trying to swallow him whole. He dodged out of the way. This wasn't something he expected, nor can fight. He had no weapons, no gun, no knife, nothing. He dodged some of the flailing tendrils as they came down upon him. He had to think of something fast or he would be eaten alive. He then sees some of the broken swing set. A pole, sharpened from being torn away from the swing. Perfect. He dodges another attack from the creature as he runs over to the pole. He then yanks it out of the ground. As he acquires his new weapon, the creature turns around and charges Izuku again. Izuku calms himself, aims, and throws the spear into the creature's glowing red eye. It shrieks in pain as the world around them comes apart. The black sludge swirls into a whirlpool and Izuku gets pulled in. He spins and spins until he stops, landing on top of a few wooden desks. He gets up slowly, he feels the pain but doesn't look injured at all. I guess the dream world is keeping me alive. Please. Not again. Izuku shook as he lifted his head, seeing Bakugo, Izumi, and a few other lackeys surrounding him, while Izumi lifts his notebook with her quirk. This was just a few months ago. Izuku thought as the scene plays out in his dream like poison. Bakugo destroying his notebook, then threatening him not to go to UA and then take a swan dive off the roof, and pray you'll get a heroic quirk in your next life. Izuku's eyes only saw red as he attempted to attack Bakugo again, only for the sludge to open his way to another location. This next to a tunnel, the tunnel. Izuku then sees his younger self talking with All Might. As the man turns around, his smile wavering as Izuku asked his question, "Can a quirkless person like me ever become a hero?" All Might stood there for a good short moments, then said, "Young man, this world is filled with dangers and criminals that, without a quirk, would be a death sentence for someone like you. I'm sorry, you can't be a hero. Maybe become something like a police officer. They get teased a lot for being there after the criminal is taken down, but they are truly the underrated heroes of our world. It's good to dream, just be a little more realistic. I wouldn't want to be the one to give your family the news of you dying so young." Izuku stood there, silently crying. The real one hated this memory, hated All Might with all his heart. He destroyed everything the boy tried to be. He wanted to be a hero, to save people. He'll show him he will be someone who people can look up to. Whether it's for hero or villains, he doesn't care. All to spite the man that crushed his dreams. As he thought this, a sludge hand sprouts from the ground, charging toward Izuku. He is caught off guard and couldn't dodge in time, allowing the hand to push him. The ground in front of Izuku forms into a smile. Teeth made from hardened acid as its mouth opens wide, with Izuku falling into it. Izuku falls from what looks like an endless pit, as distorted faces appear on the walls. "Stupid Deku. Learn your place. Just die already. You don't belong in this world. Stop. Why are you trying to be a hero? You'll never get there. I'm sorry, you can't be a hero. Move it, Deku. Shut. Quirkless loser. Waste of air. Take a swan dive off the roof, and pray you'll get a heroic quirk in your next life. Shut up." Izuku finally stops falling. It takes him a bit to get his surroundings. He looks around and sees he is in a glass box. The walls outside are the same black sludge, not even forming into anything. Then he sees Izumi, Bakugo, and All Might. They were in a circle around some other people. Once Izuku got his bearings, he gasped. In the middle of them, Toga and Corrosion laid. Their clothes were tattered, burn wounds and bruises were forming on their bodies. "Himiko! Corrosion! No, please stop." Izuku banged on the glass, trying to break it, but it wasn't budging. He sees the trio start to attack his friends again, Every pelt, burn, punch, he sees it all as they groan and scream from the pain. From the top of the box, the sludge starts to pour in. Izuku looked in horror. He was going to die, he was going to watch his friend die. He continues to smack on the glass over and over. Deku. Nothing. Worthless. Useless. Izuku pounded on the glass more as red eyes started to appear from the dark void, watching as the box slowly fills up with sludge. Izuku stops to look at Himiko, her battered body flailed, one of her eyes were open staring at him. Why did you fail me? In that moment, Izuku's world shattered. His eyes turned savage, his rage hit an all-time high. He punched the glass with all his might, a single crack formed. He repeated over and over, small cracks start to form more and more. On the outside, Izuku starts to move, slowly jittering in the tank. As a black substance starts to seep out of his skin and into the purple water, making it murky. Izuku punches again and again, not caring about the sludge in his box. His arms start to have black veins each time he hits the wall. They slowly move up his arm. Izuku starts to spaz out in the tank now. The substance starts to leak out more and more, turning the water into a deep gray color. The black lines rise around his torso, all the way down his legs. At last he breaks free, his eyes turning a blood red as he rushes towards them. Ha-ahawah. He yells gutturally as his face takes on the sludge, making a mask of back liquid, his mouth being lines with acidic fangs. He grabs Bakugo by the head, the memory version starts to melt rapidly until he was no more. Then he attacks the memory Izumi, which the same thing happens. Finally he charges all might. The memory version being the only one to look at him. It braces for the attack, lifting out its hand to catch him, but Izuku was too fast, grabbing All Might by the head and slamming it into the ground. I hate all of you, you all will die. As he does this, his hair turns a pale yellow, fully completing his transformation. And then his eyes open, the tank breaks, allowing the murky water to spill onto the floor. Fushoku Shigaraki is reborn. As Dr. Garaki was taking in stock of his supplies and containers, he hears a loud crack coming from the resurrection bay. He turned his head around in shock. The Nomu weren't supposed to do that, they were meant to be completely dead until a charge was formed in their brains. That meant only one thing, the boy. He quickly hit a button on his control panel. A few seconds later a black portal opened up and All for One entered through it. Doctor, what made you call me this late? He asked, a little annoyed by the emergency button being pressed so late at night. He didn't need to sleep, but it was the quietness of it that counts. My lord! He's arisen! Dr. Garaki exclaimed. All for One's anger subsided, as a smile formed underneath his mask. Both the doctor and All for One moved to the room Fushoku's tank was placed in. There, they both see broken glass scattered across the floor, along with a black liquid staining the surface. In the middle of it all was Fushoku, his wet body gleaming from the still remaining lights surrounding the tank. The clothing he was wearing was falling off of him, like they were melting. His shirt was completely gone, and his pants had burn holes on them, showing some of his leg. He was muscular, not All Might levels, but a nice toned body. What was unique to Izuku were the small black stripes that were around the elbows and ribcage. His fingernails were also colored black. Moving up to his face, his hair was an unnatural pale yellow. It was still fluffy, but was more straighter than the wild, unkept hair Izuku Yagi had. His eyes were a deep crimson, as small black stripes that resembled teardrops ran down his face. Fushoku began to calm his breathing as he took in his surroundings, staring at the cold steel walls of his room, the broken machinery littering the ceiling and glass covering the floor. He then looked down at his hands. He saw how black veins pulsed underneath his skin in a rhythmic sense, almost methodical. It seems you've awakened, Fushoku. He looked over to see the doctor and sensei at the entrance, staring at him. And quite earlier than expected, we didn't expect you to come out for another 2 weeks. Indeed, quite the convenient awakening. Now first off, how do you feel? Dr. Garaki asked. Fushoku looked at himself more, turning his body, lifting his legs, making sure all his body parts were in working order. Like I am something different, yet still me. If that makes sense. It makes perfect sense, my boy. You have went through an ordeal and came out differently in both mind and body. Sensei said as he made his way over to Fushoku, not bothering about the glass on the floor. Sensei could see the difference in Fushoku's eyes, once brimming with light now lit up with crimson fury, calm at the moment but would snap in an instant. Now, how about we test your new abilities? He said, putting his hand onto Fushoku's shoulder. Fushoku looked at him with wide eyes, then looking down at his hands and smiling, nodding to Sensei's suggestion. Yes, I want to see what my new quirk can really do. Fushoku said excitedly. At least this part of Izuku Yagi stayed. All for one really appreciated the analytical side of the boy. I agree, let's do it. I have a testing chamber a few doors down. Dr. Garaki said excitedly, mostly to see his masterpiece work in action as they could never tell what it could really do thanks to its aggressive nature. The three of them leave the broken room and head towards the test chamber. As they do, Fushoku looks at the Nomus still scattered around the hall. There were at least 15, most of them were lower tier or mid-tier, only a few others were high tiers, though one did get his attention. It was his Nomu, the one that helped in the Eastern Dragon's raid. It was suspended in the purple tank like all the rest, but it looked slightly different. Its beak was more crooked and jagged than the sleekness it was before. It was also silver instead of yellow. It was bigger, not by musher but enough to see a sizable difference, like about 3 feet taller. Its knuckles had a metallic sheen on it, same with its fingernails and teeth. Fushoku smiled that his suggestion for the metal bones quirk was given form with his Nomu, making it even more fearsome than last time. They then entered the test chamber. It was a large circular area covered in sand, with targets and plastic dummies littering the area in specific places. Perfect for testing a quirk's capabilities. Dr. Garaki and all for one move over to the side area. Hidden within the wall of the chamber was a door that fits seamless with the environment. Hitting a button, he opens the door to reveal a room on the other side. A desk was placed near a window, with papers about different quirks stacked on one side and a journal and computer on the other. Bulletproof one-way glass allowed both of them to watch and be protected from attacks. Dr. Garaki pulls a mic out of the desk and turns it on. Now, this chamber is usually tested for quirks that would be used on the Nomu, but we can accommodate for this. He then went to his computer. We should start off simple. Can you activate your quirk for us? Fushoku looked at his hand, trying to bring out the power of his quirk. After about 2 minutes of just concentrating in his hand, he sighs. I don't know how. What am I missing? Sensei sees this and thinks of an idea. Fushoku, try thinking about what you felt when you awoke. Maybe that should help. Fushoku looked at the place where Sensei was supposed to be and then back to his hand. He thought back to the moment he awoke. It was when he was slamming All Might's head into the front. Then his eyes widened with his realization. He closed his eyes, focusing on channeling all his hate to his hand. After 10 seconds, the small stripes on his arm started to widen, crawling along his forearm like veins, creating a networks of black stripes. They crawl to his hand as they reach his fingernails and they form into long claws. Fushoku opens his eyes to see his clawed hand. His eyes widened in shock momentarily, then into glee. He finally has won his quirk. Whoa, so cool. For so long he wanted, dreamed, wished for one all his life. Now, in this moment, all his prayers were finally answered. He could feel the power, the destructive urges coming forth into his mind, and he wanted to test them, to truly feel the power of a quirk in his hands. He turned toward the nearest dummy, humanoid-shaped, with no discernible facial features. His smile turned wicked as he charged and grabbed a hold of the doll's head. His quirk activated. Soon the dummy's head started to crack, breaking the plastic, then it started to rot and melt. Black sludge formed around Fushoku's hand as it continued to eat away at the body of the dummy. After 30 seconds, what was left of the dummy was a pile of gray sludge. Fushoku felt satisfied, destroying the worthless doll. He couldn't quite figure out why. It felt like an itch in his back that he was there for so long finally being scratched. He wanted to try that again. Alright, this is a rush. All for one and Dr. Garaki stare out at Fushoku as he starts to destroy another doll. It seems that his cravings of destructions are stronger than we anticipated. Most likely with decay. He might need to learn how to tone down his instincts before they get out of hand. Dr. Garaki said, typing away at his computer about what they were learning. His powers were very similar to Decay in most aspects, but he was sure there was more. Yes, it would be a shame for him to backtrack now. But seeing this gives me more hope that he won't change allegiances at all. The quirk is working just as intended. All for One said, admiring the sadistic glue on his successor's face as he melts another dummy. You should probably tell him to stop before we lose all our targets. Of course, Master. Dr. Garaki then speaks into the mic again. All right, boy, that's quite enough. We need to test other abilities you might have. Fushoku stops, looking at what he thought was them, and then stands back in the middle, thinking back to his mindscape, trying to think of clues for his quirk. He thinks back to the black tendrils that created each memory, and has an idea. He closes his eyes again and concentrates really hard. Slowly his stripes around his body start to expand, creating a network all around his body. He focuses on his back, thinking back to his breakout of the glass cage. Then a tendril flies out of his body, then another and another. When Fushoku opens his eyes again, 4 tendrils are whipping around behind him. He tries to gain control but can only control them one at a time. They writhe around in all directions. He panics and calls them back into his body. Looking around at the chamber's walls, he sees that the tendrils carved lines and scratches into the steel. Guilt on his face, he bows at the wall. Sorry, Sensei. I couldn't control it. Not to worry, Fushoku Shigaraki, you are testing your new abilities. You aren't going to get the hang of them all right off the bat. Even I have trouble when gaining a new quirk from time to time. All for One said, amused by his young protege still being a child even after his operation. It brings a small smile to his face. We will have to work on that later. For now, we need to know what else can you do. Anything at all that comes to mind. Fushoku then looks back to his thoughts, remembering a specific aspects from the amalgamations within his mind, specifically the one within his childhood memory back to the playground. The amalgamation had tendrils, destruction capabilities, and acidic teeth. Fushoku forms the black sludge around his arm, forming it all around. He concentrates a bit more, thinking about the knife, like Toga. The sludge start to take shape, elongating past his fist, then hardening into a golden-like substance, sharpening into a blade arm. Fushoku moves the blade around. It was lightweight, gleaming in the light of the room. He turns toward one of the dummies and slashes it across the chest. The blade cut through with ease, nothing stopping it from carving through. Fushoku fixates on the blade, then hears sizzling coming from the dummy. He sees the dummy slowly start to rot from the inside. That's how the blade cut through her. Fushoku thought, thinking about all the different ways he could use this ability. Before he could, the door to the observation room opened with Sensei and Dr. Garaki walking out. Now, young Fushoku. I know you want to test your quirk out more, but I believe you should rest. Your body needs time to acclimate to the outside again. Also, you can see Kurogyri and Toga. It's been a while since they have seen you. You might shock them with your new appearance. Fushoku's eyes went cartoonishly wide as he completely forgot about Kurogyri and Himiko while he was testing his quirk. Were they going to like him? Were they going to abandon him? Oh god, oh. Fushoku, calm down. I'm sure they will enjoy the new you. Sensei put his hand onto Fushoku's shoulder, bringing the boy back to reality. He knew he was right, that they cared about him no matter what, but the dregs of his memories still haunt him. Seeing them wounded badly in front of him, it felt too real. You should listen to the master, young Shigaraki. Your stamina depletes much faster due to you using your new quirk. Kurogyri will make sure you have proper control. I will send your new and improved Nomu back to you in a couple of days, just some final tests. I understand, Sensei, Doctor, you're both right. I'll get going, I'm tired anyway. Fushoku said, agreeing with Sensei's suggestion. All for One nodded, then called for Kurogyri to have a portal open. As the black portal opens, All for One says, before you go, Fushoku, now that you have power, you need to now make yourself known to the world. Start forming your league. I have good information that All Might be attending UA as a teacher. Do with the information with what you will. Show the world that you are here. A symbol of fear. With that, Fushoku heads into the portal. The glowing gold lights illuminate the area, making Fushoku feel at home once again. Kurogiri was cleaning glasses at the counter as always. He looks up to see Fushoku. His slits for eyes widen as he takes in the different look of Fushoku. Master Shigaraki, welcome back. Kurogiri politely said, as he puts down the glass he was cleaning to put his full attention on Shigaraki. You look different. How are you feeling? Fushoku's crimson-red eyes soften. Kurogiri was the first someone who took his safety and feeling to heart. Always helping, always a person to talk to. So of course he would be the one who would quickly see if he was alright. It was just classic Kurogiri. I feel fine for now, Kurogiri, just tired. I've had a wild day. Fushoku replied, getting a nod of confirmation from Kurogiri, as he picks up the glass from before and continues to clean it once more. Say, where is Himiko, by chance? Ah, she went upstairs to sleep about an hour ago. I was surprised you came back so late at night. Moments of silence. What? What time is it? It's currently 2:30 in the morning. I wondered why I needed to portal someone so late into the night. Fushoku swiftly turned his head toward the wall clock in the corner. Kurogiri was correct. The time was 2:30. As he was making this revelation, he heard footsteps stomping down the stairwell. Kurogiri, why is there so much screaming? I'm trying to sleep. Himiko said as she opened the door to the back and poked her head out. Her blonde hair was messy as she took her buns out of her hair, showing the true length as it made it all the way down her back. She was in her pink pajamas and had bags under her eyes. She glared at Kurogiri, then turned towards the other person in the room. She didn't know who he was at first, yelling at him, "Hey you, can you shut up, I'll stab you. Some people are trying to sleep here." Kurogiri and Fushoku stare at Himiko for a good moment. Then Fushoku finally spoke, Himiko. It's me. Toga took a good look at Fushoku, then his eyes widened and she rushed over to him. Oh my god, Izuku, you're back. I missed you so much. Do you know how worried I've been? I've been trying to convince Kurogiri to open a portal to see you, but he said no, and was like please, but I still said nothing. I got sedan started dash. Himiko. Hey, calm down. I'm here. I'm back. Okay, breathe. Himiko takes a deep breath, then snuggles her head into Fushoku's chest. I'm just glad you're back, and did you get more buff? And did you change your hair color? Fushoku didn't know how to respond to that. He just said, it's from my quirk. My hair and the black marking are just a side effect of my quirk. Your eyes are so pretty, Izuku. Like they were pretty before, but now they remind me of blood, so they make you more pretty. Fushoku chuckled at Himiko's antics, thins what he needed after about 6 months of suffering. He then got serious and looked to both Himiko and Kurogiri. Alright, now that I'm back, we are going to be strengthening the league more. I just got word from Sensei that All Might will be teaching at UA. Sensei wants us to show the world that we are here. Let's spread some chaos before attacking UA. Show them there is nowhere we can't go. Himiko and Kurogiri listen intently at Fushoku's words. While he was a good leader before, he had some minor hiccups and had self-confidence issues when going into battle. The attack on the Eastern Dragons a lot of preparation because Izuku was unsure of if he was ready for it. It took Kurogiri and Himiko to improve on his confidence, and that's how the raid started. Now though, it seemed like Fushoku had no trouble with his confidence. He seemed totally different. We should call upon Jiren for grunts, a lot of them. Kurogiri, can you do that? Of course, I'll call him in the morning. Good, next we need to cause a bit more chaos around Japan. Stir up the masses, make heroes work harder. What do you mean by cause chaos? How will we do that? It was Himiko that said this. That's what I'm going to talk about now, but before that, Kurogiri, do we still have access to the lower tier Nomu from the Easter Dragons raid? Yes, but why? Let's just say, we are causing a prison break. The next night, a police convict transport truck was driving through the streets of Mizudafu late at night. The officers were extremely tired with this bunch of villains. They were being taken to another prison closer to Tokyo, and they needed to be taken today, even though it was close to midnight. The officer behind the wheel was exhausted. He sighed. Today was so boring. Nothing but papers and reports. And now, I can't go home to see his wife. Instead, I have to be the one to lug this stupid bunch of villains all the way to the opposite side of Tokyo. Hey man, I'm with you. The officer to the side of him said. But there's nothing much we can do about it. Higher-ups say we need to bring them, we bring them. Simple as that. Why do we even keep these guys around? It would be so easy to just get rid of them. Few more villains off the streets and empty cells for more. You know that isn't our job. Our job is not to execute people, even if they're villains. They still have rights, whatever few they have. As they continued to talk, on one of the building in front of the convoy, a figure in the shadows hides. The only thing shown is the glowing red eye staring at the convoy. As the convoy makes its way closer, a red beam of energy shoots out and hits the convoy dead-on, causing it to fall sideways and crash. The figures is reveals as the lens Nomu, while Kurogiri and Fushoku, in his villain outfit, are next to it. Good job, Nomu. Now let's go down and meet our new friends. Kurogiri. Kurogiri opens a portal that all three go into. He leaves the gate right outside the crash truck. The officer driving wakes up from being knocked out. He hanging slightly to his side, blood running from his head, one eye open, coughing out his lungs. He looks to his side to his partner. He wasn't as lucky as he hit his head the moment of impact, killing him. As the League move closer, the driver door opens up, with the officer climbing out. He looks to see Kurogiri, Fushoku and the Nomu all staring at him as Fushoku gets closer. Who are you? He weakly says as Fushoku walks up to his face. His imposing red eyes gleam through the mask as the jaw-like respirator paints the image of a demon come to life. Sorry, dead people don't need to know who we are. He then signals for the Nomu to come closer. Nomu! The Nomu charges his eye laser again, as the officers scream in agony. After the beam relents, the only remains of the officer were charred bones. Good, Nomu disable the transport cameras, we don't need anyone looking for us yet. Fushoku says as him and Kurogiri make their way to the back. Nomu complies and one of the wires connected to his camera head detaches and attaches to the truck's electronics. While Nomu is hacking the camera systems, Fushoku and Kurogiri walk to the back door of the convoy. Do you need me to open a gate inside, Master Shigaraki? No need, Kurogiri, I can use my quirk for this one. I need the practice anyway. Fushoku replied as he holds his hand towards the back doors and activates his quirk. Black claw-like hands burst from the glove as the door starts to creak and hiss, then it begins to melt. Finally, Fushoku takes his hand off the door when it was nothing but sludge on the ground. He inspects his hand. Whoops, forgot about the glove. Oh well, no biggie. Unbeknownst to him, the sleeve of his forearm starts to turn from forest green to dark gray. He then enters the convoy, seeing all the villains groaning from the pain of the crash. None of them were injured beyond minor scrapes and bruises. That was a plus. Sorry everyone for the rough drive, we are the League of Villains, and we would like you to join us as we tear down Hero Society. The villains inside see the kid, and how he got inside, they wouldn't. He liked to be at the end of someone with a disintegration quirk. Fushoku then sees a familiar green goo near the back. Well, isn't this ironic? He walks into the back to see a bottle filled with green sludge. As he does, two red eyes look towards him. Who the hell are you? Someone you may not remember, but I can never forget you. Or did you forget the kid you almost killed before All Might came to save the day? The sludge villain's eyes widened in shock. No, wait, you're that kid. Hey look, we can talk this out. No need to get violent in here. Oh, I'm not gonna kill you. In fact, you and I have one thing in common, to get our revenge on All Might. What do you say? 2 days after. Fushoku Shigaraki was sitting on one of the stool at the counter, drumming his fingers upon the wood. His patience was running thin. The person that was supposed to be here 20 minutes ago hasn't even arrived. Not even a call that they would be late. Kurogiri can sense the tension in the air from Fushoku. Master Shigaraki, please be patient. I'm sure a well-respected broker like Jiren will be here shortly. I know, Kurogiri, But I hate it when people are late for an important meeting. We could be getting things done rather than waiting for someone to show up past when they are supposed to. Fushoku yelled, then realized what happened and took in a deep breath. Apologies Kurogiri, I didn't mean to raise my voice like that. I'm just annoyed is all. He said. Kurogiri nodded, but he was thinking of something else. Ever since Fushoku came back from his operation, he seemed off. Random loud outbursts, anger issues, impatience, it wasn't like Fushoku to be like this. Kurogiri summed it up as Fushoku's mindset getting used to his quirk, which is influencing his temper, like someone going through puberty, which the boy likely is and isn't helping his mindset at all. He also noticed that Fushoku now doesn't care about who he kills, at least, not to the extent of Izuku before. Izuku would not agree with killing innocent bystanders or civilians, mainly criminals. But Fushoku, he doesn't care all that much. Maybe the operation made him see things differently, but now he hates society and its people as a whole. Come on, Fushoku-kun, lighten up. Or I can help lighten your mood if you want. Toga said coming up from behind him, holding onto his shoulder. She had not taken to the name change of Fushoku's kindly, as in her words, why repress who you are? But when he said that it was who he was now, she begrudgingly relented. She still calls him Izuku-kun, but only when it's them alone, or with Kurogiri. In public, she uses Fushoku-kun to keep his old name a secret. Fushoku's cheeks flushed red in embarrassment. Himiko, not now. Please. Yeah, he still got embarrassed really easily, some things never change. Before anyone else could talk, a knock on the door was heard. As the door opened, a puff of smoke could be seen. Ah, sorry for the late arrival, had to make sure we weren't being followed. Jiren said as he made his way through the door. The man was wearing his signature purple blazer and matching dress pants, with a white dress shirt underneath. He wore a fluffy scarf around his neck and had blue-tinted glasses. The man's hair was white, greasy but well kept. A smug expression was plastered on his face, with a cigar sticking out of his mouth, producing copious amounts of smoke. As he stepped through the doorway fully, he said, "Oh, did I interrupt something?" "Not at all, Jiren. You came at the right time. Shall we conduct our business?" Kurogiri said politely, gesturing for the broker to come inside. "Of course, but first I would like to introduce the new recruit you requested." As Jiren said this, one person walked in behind him. One was a man dressed in a full black and gray bodysuit, wearing red and cyan cuffs on each arm. This man has only been known for petty crimes, but I know him personally and I'll tell you he is a very powerful and loyal comrade. Name's Twice, nice to meet ya. I hate all of you, go to hell. The man Twice said weirdly. I heard from Jiren that you want to destroy Hero Society. I'm in. I'm out, I'm fine with the status quo. Fushoku didn't know what to think of the man at first glance. He would call him a lunatic, but that would be hypocritical, as Himiko is in the league. So if Jiren thought him useful, then he must be. Hey, well, hello there Twice. My name is Fushoku Shigaraki. I'm the leader of the organization known as the League of Villains. At the bar is my faithful second-in-command Kurogiri. Kurogiri gives a polite nod over to Twice. And our other member is Himiko Toga, who is currently behind me. Toga comes around Fushoku and runs over to Twice. Hi, I'm Himiko Toga. Welcome, we love new members. I hope you like to make people bleed. She's crazy, who isn't. Himiko, calm yourself, he just got here, let him get comfortable first. Fushoku said. Himiko pouted then relented, moving back over behind Fushoku. Now where was I? Yes, welcome to the League. As Jiren may have mentioned to you, our goal is to destroy the current society we live in. Ostracization, neglect, hero society as a whole, that's what we want to change. But in order to do that, we need to clear the board so to speak. Do you understand what you're signing on for? Hell yes, sir. No, say it again. Twice said. Can you tell me what your quirk is? No. Twice contradictingly said. Then he produced a black sludge from his hand that turned into a cardboard box. My quirk is called Double. I can create a duplicate of anything, living or not. I just need to know the exact measurements of the thing I want to duplicate. The more exact the better my duplicates are. I can also make duplicates of people too, including their quirks. Fushoku was a little thrown back that Twice didn't contradict himself once during his explanation, but he was interested in Twice's quirk. It was indeed super useful, definitely good support. Very nice, Twice. Alright, you're in. Make yourself at home here. This is mostly the base of operations for the League. Kurogiri can get you anything you want. Oh boy, thanks new boss, / hell no, fuck you. Twice went to go talk with Kurogiri, Himiko butting into their conversation as well, mostly to get to know the new member of the League. Fushoku then turns and goes to sit in the booth that Jiren was occupying currently. As for you Jiren, the money for the recruitment will be deposited once Kurogiri gets to it. I do want to talk about a big project of mine with you. Oh really? What kind of project are we talking about? Jiren asked, interested in the new job. As you might have known, my league recently attacked a prison convoy and had many of the villains escape. Yes, I've heard. Impressive stuff, and being able to get out with no heroes being able to stop you is quite an achievement, nowadays. Saberfang, Amphibian, Kruger, Drill Sergeant, the list goes on, mostly C-tier villains with a few D-tiers and a couple of B-tiers. Yes, well, their whole job is to cause chaos throughout Mizudafu and its neighboring prefectures, keeping heroes busy for a couple of months for a plan I've concocted. And what is this big plan? You see, I've gotten some info that All Might will be teaching at UA this year. Jiren was stunned by what he heard. All Might? Teaching? That was a funny joke. The man couldn't teach for shit. Really? Why would the number one hero be teaching at a hero school? That's what Sensei said, and I am likely to believe him and his sources. In any case, I'm planning a big assault on UA. I have a Nomu that should be able to be on par, if not, be able to kill the symbol of peace. I do need grunts. Not Twice level, just low-level thugs and crooks. People who don't really need to care about my cause. They will be cannon fodder, don't tell them that though, attacking any heroes or students with sheer numbers advantage. I would like your assistance in gaining these new grunts. That can be done, it will cost you however. We have the sufficient funds. Kurogiri will send you half up front then the other when all is said and done. Alright then, when do you want these grunts by? In a few months, UA's entrance exam is in about 2 months from now, and UA's first day of school will be around March. Plenty of time for a man of your talents. Sheesh kid, no need for such kind words. I got it. Just make sure you got my money and this is all done. Alright, I think we have a deal. Sure do. Achiko Uraraka had just left her apartment. It's been about a week since she moved out into Mizudafu, and to say she was nervous was an understatement. She was moving away from her parents, away from friends she had, and going to a new school. She had all the right to be nervous. And also that she can go to her dream school. When she was a little girl, she wanted to help her parents. They had a construction business, however, they haven't been able to get enough work to support them. Uraraka wanted to be a hero, mostly to help her parents have an easy life. If she becomes a hero, she can use her quirk to help pick up construction materials, move machines into the right positions, make enough money to help her parents live easy. Not that it was her only reason. She still wanted to be a rescue hero like her favorite hero 13, but her parents came as a priority for her. So it came as a shock to her that her parents had rented an apartment for her to stay at for the end of junior high and into high school. She tried to refuse, to not let her parents spend so much money on her, but her parents didn't budge, saying it would be a lot more affordable to just rent a place in Mizudafu than for her to constantly take the train back and forth. Damn, they got her with that. She was walking to her new school, Aldra Junior High. It wasn't the most prestigious school around. Most affordable, yes, but nothing to write home about. As she walks through the gate, she can feel many of the students' eyes on her. Her anxiety was truly spiking at this point. She just wanted to get this day over with. Alright students, today we will be having a new transfer student join our class. Behave around her, alright? The homeroom teacher said, gesturing for Uraraka to head to the front. Hi. I'm Achiko Uraraka, please take care of me. She takes a bow at the end. Alright, Ms. Uraraka. Take the empty seat at the back middle. She nods and walks over. She doesn't notice two people staring at her while she takes her seat, that being the eyes of Bakugo and Izumi. Classes went on as usual. As the bell for lunch period rang, all the students left for the cafeteria. Uraraka was the only one who sat at her table near the doorway, eating away at the rice she had packed. Classes then resumed and finally it was the end of school. Uraraka took her bag and left the classroom, but not before hearing a boom from the room she just exited. She turns back around and sees a boy on the ground, his uniform having a burnt hole on his chest. She looks to see the blonde boy sneering down at the kid, with two of his goons behind him. Izumi was on the other side of the room, looking unhappy at the sight. "Look, extra. You better give me the money you owe me or else," Bakugo said, threatening him with sparks popping in his hands. "I don't have it. I can get you it tomorrow. Promise." The boy pleaded as Bakugo aimed his palm at the boy. Before he could do anything, Uraraka jumped in to protect the boy. "Stop this!" Uraraka yelled, protecting the boy with her body. "What the hell are you doing? You can't do that, someone. Using your quirk like that is illegal, you know." Bakugo growled at the newcomer. "Shut the fuck up, pink cheeks. This extra needs his lesson. You better get out of the way if you know what's good for you." "No, I won't. I'm stopping this now." Bakugo growled in anger. This girl was reminding him so much of Deku, and he hated it. He hated that he couldn't get him out of his mind after so long. He was about to go on the attack, when he felt an invisible force hold him back. "Kaken, stop. She's right, it's not worth it, let's go." "Shut it, Izumi, you can't tell me what to dash." "Bakugo. Now." He instantly shut up and followed after Izumi. The two lackey looking confused at this but decided to follow him anyway. Uraraka gave out a sigh of relief and looked at the boy beneath her. "Hey, you okay?" she asked. The boy grunted as he tried to sit up. "Why, my chest may be a little burnt though." "Alright, I'll take you to the nurse, wherever they are." Thanks." "No problem, it's just what heroes do." Bakugo, Izumi, and a couple of their goons were walking through one of the alleys near the marketplace. It was the fastest route towards the arcade. Most villains don't go near public places anyways, so the alley was usually empty. Izumi was abnormally quiet the entire walk there, though she has been pretty much quiet since her brother was missing. While Bakugo didn't much care if the useless Deku died, Izumi on the other hand was in emotional turmoil about the whole thing. She never really liked her brother for how weak and useless he was, but he was still her brother. She kicked herself for saying something so stupid that day. What the fuck was she thinking? Was she thinking at all? Her parents were in disarray trying to find any evidence of his whereabouts, but everything went cold turkey after his supposed kidnapping. She secretly hoped he was okay, just so she can beat the shit out of him for making everyone worry about him, then apologize, then beat the shit out of him more, then try to make up to him, like being a real family again, before their biological dad died. What the fuck was that all about back there, Izumi? Bakugo broke the silence between all of them, even bringing Izumi out of her thoughts. She looked at Bakugo with a tired expression. "We don't need to be starting anything before getting into UA." Izumi stated, like it was a simple matter. "Okay, but that hasn't stopped you before. What, has Deku going missing made you soft?" That triggered something as her eyes became daggers. "Don't fucking talk about him like that. It's not funny." "What, Deku? That useless nerd. Now you care about him? Since when? Why are we talking about this? Let's just head to the arcade." Bakugo wanted to press further, but then felt something sticky on his foot. He looks down to find green sludge sliding around underneath the group. Well, isn't this my lucky day?" The sludge expanded upwards. Two red eyes stared down and a grinning mouth appeared. "Guess I found my two targets already. Now I can get my revenge on All Might." And with the sludge lunged at the group of kids. The ground rumbled as lady fell backwards onto the street, making sure not to hit any of the buildings on the way down. She shrinked down, rubbing her face to get the gunk out of her eye. "Ew, gross. You know it's rude to spit on a lady, right? Do you think I give a damn about you? Huh, don't make yourself look dumber than you already are." The voice of the villain said, raspy and snide. She had heard of the prison convoy and the escaped prisoners, one being the one in front of her, the slippery villain, Amphibian. He is a B-rank villain, imprisoned for multiple accounts of robbery, murder, attempted murder, and grand larceny. He was the most slippery bastard to escape, mostly due to his quirk, Salamander. She had only briefly read up on it. Salamander body mutation, wall crawling, mucus spit, all obvious. What wasn't so obvious was how fast this villain was. Anything she threw at him, he would dodge with ease. And he was surprisingly strong, able to carry cars with ease, which he did to hit empty lady in the head, knocking her to the ground. She tries to get up, but Amphibian speeds over and smashes her headlock into the ground. These are our heroes today? Please, I wanted a fight, not an afternoon workout, he said as he sneered at the woman underneath his palm. She growled at the mutant. Not a challenge? He's calling her weak? She tries to grow again, but again he smashed her head into the ground. You ain't getting any second chances. I was promised I would be able to cause chaos, and I think there's no better than the death of a hero in public. Emi lady's heart raced. She didn't want to die, not here, not this young. She screamed in pain as Amphibian sneezes her head. Are you ready to die like all the others, hero? I am, a voice from afar said. This confused Amphibian, who looked to his right, then immediately getting punched straight in the face and flying into a building, with All Might's smoking punch being the only thing Emi lady sees at the moment. I am here. Amphibian groans in pain, then slumps off the wall, going unconscious. All Might stands there with his signature smile on his face, then looks to Empty Lady. Are you all right, Empty Lady? Why yeah, just a little shaken up. Understandable, Amphibian is a very dangerous foe. I am happy you're alive to say the least. The past few days other heroes weren't so lucky, he remarked, as Amphibian had gone on a killing spree since his escape, killing lesser-known heroes, another 5 bodies onto his murder charges already. He then hears the sirens coming closer to their location. If you need any medical attention, go and get it. I can take care of the incident from here. While MD Lady would have hated someone stealing the recognition from her, the painful headaches were getting a bit much for her sense, so she nodded and headed towards the ambulance that had just arrived. Soon more police cruisers swarmed the area, closing off the damaged street and draining the escaped convict. Detective Tsukachi hops out of one of the police cruisers and walks over to All Might. All Might, good to see you got this handled. Nothing to worry about, Tsukachi. I'm just concerned of how crime has been rising as of late. Indeed, I've been on this case for the last couple of days. We only have 4 of the escaped villains out of 15 detained. We have multiple heroes searching high and low for them, but what I'm more concerned about is their benefactor. Do we know anything about whoever this was? It was a good question from All Might. No, the prison convoy seemed to be struck by a powerful beam attack of some kind, due to the precise scorch marks on the side, and the deceased officer. Tsukachi hated talking about dead civilians or officers, but this was his job. The doors in the back seemed to have melted off, maybe some sort of acid quirk, we are not sure. Most of the villains we interviewed clammed up after we asked, not even mentioning them. One though only said that they were terrifying, that's all he said. Well I'll keep an eye out, thank you for the hard work Tsukachi. All Might said, still with his signature smile. No problem All Might. As the detective was about to walk away, All Might's smile fell just a little. Tsukachi, is there any more info on Izuku? Tsukachi turned around to All Might, looking him in the eyes. I'm sorry, but there hasn't been anything as of late. The officials say that we should drop the case, but I'm still trying. We'll find him. All Might nodded, his smile lifting back up as he jumped away. As he did though, his thoughts wandered still. They still haven't found any trace of Izuku, and obviously he was extremely stressed about the situation. He had taken down crime rings and traffickers in the PST, but his own son still eludes them. It was so frustrating, especially since his last words to Izuku was to destroy his dream. He hated that the most. He was so disappointed in himself, to not see the boy in front of him, just like he was before Nana showed up in his life. When they get Izuku back, not if, he will make him a hero, quirk or no quirk. He may not want to get his family involved with One for All, but that didn't mean he didn't want his children to live their lives to the fullest. One for all was a curse in most part, and All Might was the only one to survive it. As he jumped from building to building, he could feel the steam leaching off of him. No, not now, he thought, straining his transformation until he stood the landing, then transformed back into his skinny form, spewing out blood froth's mouth. He had been straining his time limit for a while now, looking for any clues of Izuku or his kidnapper, so much so that his time limit was down to 2 hours and 40 minutes, less than his full 3 hours when Izuku was still with them. Damn it, Recovery Girl is gonna be pissed with me, he muttered as he wiped the blood off his mouth. As he stood up, he looked up at the sky. The symbol of peace, he couldn't be for very long. It was starting to wear on the man. He needed a successor, and soon. Evil was rising while he was falling, quite ironic, wasn't it? Then, an explosion went off near the area, in an alley nearby. Toshinori looked over and rushed over to the stairwell, to see what was happening. As he ran through the street, he noticed many of the heroes of the area standing around, as fire broke out all throughout the alley. There was a crowd in front, looking in horror at the destruction that occurred. Toshinori tried moving past the crowd, just to get a good look. There he saw the sludge villain from 8 months ago, laughing maniacally, whipping around his tendrils. I can't punch him, he doesn't have a physical form. Death Arms said, pulling his fist away from the sludge villain as he whipped some of his tendrils at the pro hero. Kamui, can you do anything to this bastard? I can't reach the villain with all this fire and explosions. I'm securing the civilians as fast as possible. Kamui Wood said as he grabbed another branch full of civilians and deposited them away from the danger zone. Backdraft, what about you? Can't you spray the guy? I'm trying to take care of all the fire, there's just too much. Backdraft said as he sprayed his hoses more and more, but the fire spreaded faster than anticipated. Damn it, none of us have a quirk that can stop him. We need to wait for someone who has a suitable quirk. Death Arms yelled as he cursed at not being able to save the hostages in front of him. Damn it. Kids, please last a little longer. What now, heroes? I get my fun, and kill these kids at the same time? Oh, what a great day. The sludge villain said as explosions came out from his body, which quickly healed up. Hey, stop that and die quicker. Shut the fuck up, I ain't getting killed by some booger. A voice familiar to Toshinori said as he gasped in shock at seeing Bakugo flailing inside the sludge villain's body. Just shut up, the villain said as he forced sludge into the mouth of the boy. With your body, I can take care of 3 birds with 1 stone. Killing you, then the girl, then getting my revenge on All Might. Get off of him. Another voice said, as Toshinori's eyes shifted towards the other hostage, protecting themselves in a cocoon of telekinetic force 4th slime villain's tendrils. Izumi. Toshinori stood there in shock. He wanted to rush in, felt the pain in his abdomen telling him no, he cursed his own body. He had to watch as his own daughter struggled against the pressure of the sludge villain's assault. Before seeing someone from the crowd rush in. Achiko Uraraka was walking through the street, texting her mother and father about her day at school, until a giant explosion was heard a few blocks in front of her. Natural curious of what was going on, she rushes over to see a giant crowd forming. As she made her way to the front of the crowd, pushing through people just watching the violence unfold, her mind was in shock. Fire all around the alleyway, with a mass of sludge writhing around, trying to hit anything in sight. She sees the pro-hero Death Arms go in for an attack but does nothing to the amorphous body. I can't punch him, he doesn't have a physical form. Death Arms said, pulling his fist away from the sludge villain as he whipped some of his tendrils at the pro-hero. Kamui, can you do anything to this bastard? I can't reach the villain with all this fire and explosions. I'm securing the civilians as fast as possible. Kamui Wood said as he grabbed another branch full of civilians and deposited them away from the danger zone. Backdraft, what about you? Can't you spray the guy? I'm trying to take care of all the fire, there's just too much. Backdraft said as he sprayed his hoses more and more, but the fire spreaded faster than anticipated. Damn it, none of us have a quirk that can stop him. We need to wait for someone who has a suitable quirk. Death Arms yelled as he cursed at not being able to save the hostages in front of him. Damn it. Kids, please last a little longer. Ha. What now, heroes? I get my fun, and kill these kids at the same time? Oh, what a great day. The sludge villain said as explosions came out from his body, which quickly healed up. Hey, stop that and die quicker. Shut the fuck up, I ain't getting killed by some booger. A voice can be heard from the sludge. Uraraka then sees Bakugo's head trying to pull out from the sludge villain's grasp. Just shut up. Uraraka watched in horror as the villain forced more sludge into the mouth of the captured boy. With your body, I can take care of 3 birds with 1 stone. Killing you, then the girl, then getting my revenge on All Might. Get off of him. Another voice said, as Uraraka watched the young girl, Izumi Yagi, she remembered, used some kind of telekinetic barrier to block the tendrils from attacking her. She was definitely caught in the attack, with how close she was to the villain. Uraraka watched, seeing the heroes not doing anything. What are they doing? Don't they see them dying? She thought. Then she sees Bakugo's face, terrified of dying to suffocation from the villain. Hearing Yagi cry out in pain as she is forced into the ground, barely holding onto her barrier, as it starts to flicker. Her eyes widened, having her hands over her mouth. She doesn't remember why, but she thinks back to a time when she was little, an old memory from a time before her family's money crisis. Flashback. Achiko was having fun on the playset, ready to go down the metal slide. The edge of the slide, however, was very small and she accidentally fell off a slide. Before she could hit the ground, a boy ran over and cushioned her fall with his body. Oh no. I'm sorry, are you okay? I'm fine, don't worry about me. The boy said, only a silhouette, his face blackened in the memory. But why did you do that? You could have gotten hurt because of me. She asked, trying desperately to find the reasoning for the boy to save her like that. My body just moved on its own. I don't really know. But I couldn't just let someone get hurt while I am here, that wouldn't be very heroic. He said, stuttering at first but then went into a muttering spree. She laughed as the boy flushed in embarrassment. It was a testament to how nice the boy was that she could still remember even when she was so young. End of flashback. She got out of her thoughts when she realized that she had moved, running towards the villain. Hey, stop! Death Arms screamed. You'll get killed. Both the villain and Bakugo look at Uraraka running through the destroyed alleyway, dodging the fire and explosions. Crap. I ran in without knowing. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Her mind raced with solutions until she sees a trash can, still propped up to the side of her. She uses her quirk to lift the trash can up. Getting an idea, she launches the can at the villain, more specifically his eyes. My eyes. He relents, releasing Bakugo long enough for him to breathe again. This also frees Izumi from the onslaught, able to open her eyes and see Uraraka running towards Bakugo. Wa? Uraraka? Yagi says, not believing what she was seeing. She then sees Uraraka use touch Bakugo, trying to pull him away. What the hell are you doing here, pink cheeks? She struggles pulling Bakugo out of the sludge, then says, I may not like you, but I can't watch you die. Suddenly both see Izuku flash in their minds, Yagi being the first out of the thought when Uraraka yelled at her. Use your quirk. Help me pull him out. Yagi nods, Uraraka using her quirk to lighten Bakugo, while Yagi uses her quirk to successfully pull him out from the sludge villain. The villain realizes and attempts a full assault on the trio. You're dead. Uraraka watched as everything went into slow motion. As she rushed into the front of them, her mind thought back. Flashback. Mama, Papa. I'm gonna be a hero, to help your pay trouble, a young 6-year-old Uraraka said. Her father smiled down at her, crouching down to meet her face. He placed his hand on her head and nuzzled her hair. My Achiko, please don't worry about us. We will be fine. Become the hero you want to be. That's all I ask. End of flashback. I'm sorry, Mama, Papa. Please don't spend too much on me, she thought as she braced herself in front of Izumi and Bakugo. And oh! The pro-heroes scream as they watch the villain attack the kids, then a puff of smoke occurs, blocking their view. They expect the worst, but then they see the kids perfectly fine, with the sludge villain not even touching them. The kids are also confused until they look up. Damn villain. Attacking the youth like this? Just to get at me? They suddenly see All Might, blocking the attack form above them. Quite ironic. I talked about how dangerous the life of a pro hero is with Izuku, but I didn't put what I preached into practice. He then lifted up, glaring at the sludge villain with his piercing glowing blue eyes. Heroes are always putting their all, risking their lives to save others. Blood spewing out of his mouth as he readies his punch. Almomayite. The villain shouts as he prepares another attack, only for All Might to punch with the force of a hurricane. Detroit sis mummas hash. As the punch connects, a tornado of power surges through the alley, putting out the fire in an instant and sending the sludge villain in every which direction. All Might shielded the three kids from the force of the punch. When it was said and done, it started to rain. The crowd was shocked for a good long moment, then cheered for All Might. He had saved the day and changed the weather with a single punch. He was their #1 hero. On the rooftop across the road from the alley, the League was watching the chaos unfold, specifically Fushoku and Kurojiri. Tog Himiko and Twice were off on a mission, with Jiren to assemble more grunts. Fushoku was watching silently, watching as Katsuki struggled under Sueji's grasp. He took some pleasure in seeing the pleading eyes of Katsuki as he was suffocating in the sludge. "Let's see how you like it, motherfucker." He also took pleasure in hearing Izumi scream in pain, with Toshinori watching from the sidelines as his favorite daughter dies in front of him. Oh, that was a joy to watch. Watching the heroes do nothing but watch them suffer only further enhanced Fushoku's reasoning for hero society to be ended by his hand. What he didn't expect, however, was one of the bystanders to run in to save the two. He watched as this bopped, brown-hair girl ran forward, almost not thinking of the consequences. He watched as she used a trash can to blind Sueji and give the two breathing room. He was actually quite impressed. Maybe there was a few aspiring heroes that were worth it after all. Then he watched as both the girl and Izumi successfully pulled Katsuki to safety. His eyes squinted as the final clash commenced, smoke filling the area. When the dust settled, All Might was there. With a powerful Detroit smash, Sueji was defeated. As the crowd cheered, Kurojiri, the ever-present servant, came up behind Fushoku. "Well, it seems that the attempt to kill your past failed." Fushoku sighed. "Yes, but we have many more opportunities." I didn't have full faith Sueji could do it. Personally, I actually hoped he couldn't, just so I can do it myself. Fushoku said, staring at All Might intently. "But this did help confirm my suspicions. I'll have to consider some things before the start of our plan." He then turned to Kurojiri, fully facing the man. "Let's go home, I'm done here." Kurojiri nodded, opening a warp gate back to the hideout. Fushoku walked through, but his mind was thinking back to his conversation with Sensei after his success with the prison convoy. Flashback. Fushoku walked through the warp gate, being greeted with the presence of his sensei, sitting on his throne. "Ah, Fushoku, you've arrived. Thank you for coming so urgently. First though, I've heard of your achievement of gaining some new followers. I must say I am proud that you are becoming such a wonderful villain, even while you are still so young." "Thank you, Sensei." He bowed. "I owe it all to you. Now, I shouldn't take any credit. I helped you carve a path, you were the done to pave it. Now, about your plan on UA, do you have any ideas on how?" "Well, I need a schedule from there in order to be able to get any information on All Might's whereabouts. Even though he is a 7-foot Goliath of a man, he can somehow evade most people with ease." "Indeed, but there are ways of getting said information. I have been planning on having a spy infiltrate their walls. Though I don't think they can just steal a schedule so easily. Maybe a distraction would help." Maybe." There was a small silence until Fushoku had the will to speak up again. "Why did you bring me here really, Sensei? It wouldn't be an urgent summoning for something as a plan far in the future. Did something important come up?" Sensei smiled. As keen as ever, Fushoku. "Yes, something has come up. But it is more of a revelation for you. Something to do with you, stepfather." Fushoku's eyes widened, rage clearly evident. but holding it in front of Sensei. Is something wrong with him? He isn't dying now before I can get my hands on him, is he? No, nothing like that. More so, history I have with him. That got Fushoku interested in this. His sensei had his with his stepfather. That was something he didn't see coming. What is it then? You see, me and your stepfather have had a history for a very long time. More so as enemies. He has something I want, and yet he has constantly been able to keep it away. All for One spoke vaguely. He didn't want Fushoku to learn about One for All just yet. That would come up later. Maybe after the UA attack. Do you remember your stepfather going to the hospital about 5 to 6 years ago? Yeah, he had to go through many surgeries. He never really recovered from it. He got a massive scar on the left side of his abdomen and had his respiratory system and his full stomach removed. Ah, so that's what happened. Well, for simplistics on the story, I am the one who gave the hole inside your stepfather's stomach. But I didn't leave unscathed, as he had defeated me, taking the top half of my head, as you see today. I may have recovered just enough, but I will never be able to gain what was taken away from me. This shocks Fushoku to his very core. His stepfather was a pro-hero. But he read up on all heroes in Japan. He wasn't in any of the articles or news, not even his name came up. Wait. How could he have beaten you? You're as strong, if not stronger than All Might? How can my stepfather ever beat you? As if Sensei could hear his thoughts, he didn't know for sure if Sensei could. He grinned wickedly. Yes, Fushoku, you are starting to put the pieces together. Your stepfather, Toshinori Yagi, is in fact All Might. End of flashback. He wanted to believe Sensei's words, but Toshinori being All Might just didn't fit in his head. He needed to see it. To see Toshinori become the symbol of peace. And he did. It was very quick, almost instant. But before Sueiji attacked the trio of kids, Toshinori moved. And one blink and he was gone, with All Might taking his place right in front of the sludge villain. He could also see the blood that leaked through his mouth. Most people would have probably not have seen it, but Fushoku's carefully crafted eyes through all the years of analysis was able to see it spew out of his mouth, just like Toshinori whenever he laughed too hard. Now, everything made sense. His father, being absent most of the time, coming home very late, him trying to lighten everyone's mood with cheesy puns. It all fit All Might. It was also the perfect disguise too. No one would think the symbol of peace would be such a frail man. He understood why Sensei chose now to reveal this information. With Toshinori and All Might being the same person, his father and idol was the one to crush his dreams. That made Fushoku's decision to kill him all the more justified in his head. As he makes it back into the bar, and begins to plan his assault. Achiko Uraraka was walking back to her apartment after being let out by the police. She needed to relax from her near-death experience she just had. Of course, she was yelled at by the pros for going into a dangerous area and also using her quirk illegally, but since she got the boy out of the villain's clutches, she was able to leave without going to jail, just a warning to not do it again. As the golden light of the sunset reaches its peak, she hears footsteps form behind her. She turns to see Bakugo and Yagi coming cup from behind her. "Hey, pink cheeks," Bakugo said, being the first to step up to her. He got in her face. "I didn't need your help back there. Got it. I had it all under control, so don't think about looking down on me, you understand? I am going to be the next #1 hero. I don't need any extras trying to get in my way." And with that he leaves, without letting Uraraka say anything. She honestly is confused and frustrated by what he said. "Can I get a thank you?" Sorry about him, he's just very aggressive with most people. That was his way of saying thank you. Yagi said, being more polite than Bakugo. "But seriously, I have to thank you. If it wasn't for you I don't think I would be here." "Oh, yeah. No problem. I just can't see people getting hurt." Yagi's eyes widened. They were words that Izuku would say when he would protect someone from Bakugo and her. She quickly puts on a smile and walks away. "Good luck. Maybe we can see each other at U." Uraraka then gives her an air fist bump. "Right." As Yagi walks away, Uraraka turns to walk home, when suddenly, "I am here. For you. The All Might." She screams. She was caught off guard by the sudden entrance of the number 1 hero. Yes, it is I. All Might tried to say before transforming back, splitting out a scary amount of blood. Uraraka, obviously, screamed to Kingdom Come. What? What the hell happened? Who are you? Relax, relax, I am the real All Might. Toshinori said. After a few minutes of calming down, Toshinori began to explain everything. There's a reason for this skinny form. I will tell you, it's kinda gross. Toshinori then showed his scar underneath his shirt. Uraraka almost vomited at the sight. Yeah, disgusting, right? I got this by a pretty nasty villain fight. I lost part of my left lung as well as my full stomach. Now I can only be a hero for about 3 hours. Uraraka was shocked by the revelation. The All Might was injured and can't work all the time. It seemed like a lie, but she can tell he was telling the truth. I had reached my limit for the day before the sludge villain attacked. I felt so useless watching from the sidelines, nothing I could do, he said, then he pointed at Uraraka. But you rushed in with no regards for your safety, unlike all the other heroes around. You rushed in to save those 2 kids. Uraraka was almost in shock by what he was saying. All Might, the number 1 hero, was praising her for helping. It was almost too much for her. You know, there is a saying in stories of some of the world's greatest heroes. They would say, my body would move before my mind. That happened to you, right? Uraraka dumbly nodded, still in shock by this entire thing. All Might paused, realizing he never caught onto Uraraka's name. That took all the attention out of Uraraka. What's your name, young lady? My name is Uraraka. Achiko Uraraka. She said, stuttering a bit. Toshinori smiled. Well, young Uraraka, I believe you can be one of the best heroes in our time, even surpass me as the new symbol of peace. You can be a hero. And I deem you worthy of my power,